What's going on? Thank you for joining me. We got a good show today. I'm looking forward to a great discussion for health. And speaking of, you have to excuse my voice. I got a little issue, detoxing, of course. But I have a special guest with me, brother Dayz of Noah, and a very knowledgeable um, brother with health. Um, among many things, we both are kind of giving you another perspective of health, what's happening in the world, how this relates to current events, and many things. So let's get to it. We got a few. Let me give a few shout outs to a few people in here. We got Rainbow's Pulpit. What's going on? Um, Rob Tick. What's going on? Narrow Way. Jason Casper. Appreciate that, brother. Thank you for the support. Eric the Overcomer. What's going on? Corey G. What's going on? Constance Jackson, the Odd Path, um, RY Guy. Let's see. Nancy M, the Mercy Seat. Everybody. I'm going to save a little bit of my voice here. So, what's going on, JP? Without further ado, let me introduce you to our esteemed, honored guest here. What's going on, brother?
Peace, man. Thanks for having me.
Man, we've been
Glad to be
planning this.
back.
Yeah, man, we've been planning this for a long time. This is actually going to be a part one of what we're going to do. We have so much we want to share and talk about. So first of all, y'all make sure, I'm sure everybody's here is subscribed to Dayz of Noah. You can check out his website. I put those links in the description box. He has a locals Patreon, putting out a lot of content, a lot of different ways. So if you want to go ahead and share a few things before we get started.
Um, yeah, I mean, shoot, we just been talking here in the background, getting this thing fired up. It's just amazing, all of the H word. It's I don't even think it's safe to really say that anymore. HEALTH.
No, it's not
Yeah, man.
because they
So
redefined it.
they've redefined it. Yeah, they've like many other concepts they've redefined, right? Yeah, man, it's just interesting seeing what's going on, especially with the issue in China, with their new bug issue going around. And I just noticed today there's some stories going around about potential spreading of things in our neck of the woods here in America.
Oh yeah.
So it's just crazy. I just think about how in general though we have to remember that the seasons are changing, weather's dropping, you know, people are getting less sunlight.
Mm-hmm.
People are probably just generally stressed out a little more than normal given the circumstances. The whole Hamas Israel thing has caused all types of strife, just like COVID did, just like the whole Trump era did. Political public health stuff, pulling people apart, separating people. So there's stress, there's anxiety. So a lot of these things, in my view, I think contribute to our body's inability to, let's say, stay in homeostasis. We got to sometimes break things down and go into detox and release things. And symptoms are usually, I guess, evidence of that, we'll say, right?
Yes. Yes.
So I can understand why people are coming down with some of these things just based on a few of those things I've mentioned alone, not to mention diet as well.
Very yes.
Holiday season, people's diets falling off a little bit. My diet fell off a little bit over the past couple weeks, I must be honest, eating a little more carbs than normal, having a little
Right.
more sugar than normal, some snacks here and there, some cookies, some brownies, some ice cream.
Hey, we all have to have our we all have our indulgence. There is a balance, there's moderation that you can
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
And we got to talk about nutritional deficiencies. We got to talk about environmental toxicity,
Mm,
how
environment, yeah.
we're interpreting symptoms, because this is all about symptoms. we can't really get into detail about isolation, purification, verification, and
Gotta be
pathogens.
careful. Yeah.
Yeah, but this is all about symptoms and who's interpreting what's happening in your body, our bodies. You know, people forget this is your body. We were wonderfully and fearfully created by the Most High. He's given us a mind to reason what happens in our environment and to reason what happens in our body. You know, just a caveat real quick with Genesis, it gives us a very simplistic overview of how we are to fit in God's design. He gave us the fruit of the trees. He Most of is provided. We just have to maintain a healthy, real environment. Remember, get away from the virtual stuff. Get into the real world. Get out in the sun. Make sure you're not stressed because you're shallow breathing. Say respiration, breathing out carbon dioxide is part of our detoxing. Detoxing. Most people don't realize a lot of harmful toxins in the body break down to carbon dioxide and water. So if you're breathing shallow, you're not respirating properly to detox the body. And then you got what you're eating. You literally are what you eat. If your food is fake, your body is going to take on a more uh, I hesitate to use the word sick or ill nature. And it's a lot that we want to talk about because we've seen what's happening in the sky. You look up on any clear day, you see these little airplanes doing their thing.
Mhm.
You know, you see this these towers going up. We understand EMF radiation, and we understand that you know, imagine the sun has such a profound effect on our health, but also so does other forms of light, other forms of frequency and sound, and kind of trying to corrupt and mimic the natural with this artificial. So I just want to give a brief overview. It's so much, man. This is
Yeah.
it's
That
it's
was
it's
good.
it's hard to compact all of this in this kind of censored environment, so to
I know,
speak.
man.
Yeah. So
It's difficult. Yeah, I want to bounce off of what you said there. Kind of taking things full spectrum. Thinking about these more what we could call metaphysic components. Things like resonance, frequency,
yes,
light. Environmental particles, toxins. Things in the air, things we're breathing in, gases, etc. These things are all very important, and it's interesting how, as we were talking about recently, uh, the H word has been redefined, and
yes,
as the H word has been redefined, so has um, new interventions, right? For problems, for illnesses, etc. New interventions with new technologies, novel technologies, but also like grounding fundamental models
yes,
as reference for diagnosis, treatment, therapy, etc. Germ theory being a major part of that. Now, the problem is we understand just based on logic alone and some research that this theory is incomplete.
yes. It is.
It's incomplete, and it isn't in any way I'd say useful for general H word, right? So the hard part with that is trying to fit in the what you're describing here, the overall aspect of the H word, which has to do as well with terrain and considering our environment, considering what goes on our largest organ on in our body, our skin, as an example, what we're putting in our bodies, what type of frequencies and let's just say toxins in our environment, right? How are these things having an effect on our bodies and our success in life? Because what it does is it affects mental health, it affects hormonal function. I mean, and we think of endocrine disruptors as well. I mean, there's just so many
Glyphosate.
things.
Yep.
Yeah, there's just so many things, and it's hard to really discuss you know the H word without discussing these things too. And what we find is in our general medical industry, these things are almost looked at as like archaic, or because it's mainly an empirical type of realm that's based in scientism. So it looks at some of these other things like frequencies as an example. Looks at these things as almost magic or something. Now, the funny thing is, when you look at some of the research that's going on in some of these really big institutions and universities, they're working directly with some of this stuff because they
Yeah.
know they know. But when we get the CDC and the World Health Organization and all the mainstream people talking, we're given the surface level jargon. They're not really dealing with the whole scope of the human bio ecosystem, right?
Yeah, and it's interesting you brought up endocrine disruption and disruptors, and we know about glyphosate, right? And
Yeah.
you notice that we're a little older, so when we were kids, we never really heard about this gluten issue until GMOs, until pesticides, until these things started to corrupt and alter how wheat is produced, because they want you to, there's a natural way to do things, and when I say natural, I mean the way God designed them without human intervention, and there's a manipulated way that they're trying to grow food, and we know that the attack on the food supply, part of the UN sustainable development is to basically move all to centralize all of our food and ways to survive with the world government, and take it away from people, getting away from local family owned farming, and getting into this corporate farming, this I can't speak right now,
Mhm.
corptocracy kind of thing,
Corporatocracy,
where
that's a hard
yeah,
one to
yeah,
say.
yeah, where our farming is controlled by people like Bill Gates and people like these people, which is weird because he's supposed to be a quote unquote software engineer, and now he's a so-called injection expert, and now he's a farmer. They just give whatever titles to these people, and the part that hurts the most is people go with it. People are so controlled by a corrupt nature within them that they associate people with money and people with political power and people with this as somehow being credible. Oh, he's a billionaire. He must be credible. Same with Musk and many of these figures that just kind of popped up out of nowhere. Now people are looking to, and I say people, mainly the lost, are looking up to these people as idols, and these people are being puppets, being used by this global government, of taking away our personal sovereignty and controlling our way of life, so that so people can live more artificially and weaken their own body's defenses through a myriad of ways to create symptoms, where they have institutions that will interpret these symptoms and create legislation behind these issues of under public health, where it can criminalize your behavior. They can try to regulate how you move in society. This is really turning into something. So you brought up the incident of pneumonia that's outbreaking right now.
Yeah, it's funny. I guess it's not technically funny, but it's interesting how it's all of the sudden spreading rapidly, and there seems to be a lot of fear and hysteria going on there. Now, it's not too surprising for that area. It seems like anytime there's uh, a small issue, it seems to be exaggerated. But I just can't help but get some of these 2020 vibes again.
Yeah,
And then
definitely.
I saw this article, this one here that I got. If you want to share it,
Let me see. You might have to pull it up again.
it's in the middle there. Wait, no, that's not it. It's there.
Oh, okay, it's there. Oh, I see
Yeah,
it. I see it.
yeah,
Okay, there we are.
yeah. This one here. Cases of CV variant BA.286 have tripled in 2 weeks, says Cat Dog Cat. Now, for me, come on, man. Really?
Yeah.
Are we going back to the cases again? I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
has it been long enough that people have forgot how ridiculous this I guess metric is.
Ye-
And here we are again, tripled in 2 weeks. That's pretty significant when we think about the messaging we got in 2020 and 2021, the way they delivered, the way they delivered the numbers, etc. Tripled in 2 weeks seems like they're trying. Like shout out to AM1. It seems like they're trying to, you know, rile this up again.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, think about this though. When's the last time we've heard anything about cases? It's been over a year
yeah.
or so.
Hey,
And there's
man,
been cases. So, well, I guess it's the tripled in 2 weeks. How and why? Some of the things we had mentioned in the beginning of the show possibly could be why people are symptomatic, but then
yes.
we have to consider the protocol for
Mhm.
diagnostic is complete BS.
Yes.
And then even the I guess the standard for what a case is BS. So again, we're right back to this lunacy. It's delusion
And let me add, medical disclaimer: we're not medical professionals.
at
This,
all.
this is not medical advice. Informational, educational purposes only. Giving our personal experience, observation of things that we see. So, just want to tell you that we're not. Look, I'm gonna say this clearly. We prefer that you go to more holistic, naturopathic views of health. That's just what we represent here. But everybody, you do what's in your best interest for your health, and we're not here to tell you. We're just here to offer information.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's interesting that this is happening again. And let me see if I can
A,
share.
a a variant of interest according to the World Health Organization.
Isn't
Wow.
that it's interesting that this is happening again, almost right in tandem with digital ID,
Mm-hmm.
in
Right when
tandem.
AI is getting good.
Yes, yes. And you heard what Hogle did in New York, right? About
Yes.
the new quarantine rules.
Yep. Covered
While
that at the
everybody
show
was
Saturday. Yeah.
distracted. Yeah, while everybody was talking about P Diddy and all
Mm-hmm.
these people out here who are, whatever. Here we are back at your. Someone can take you away from your family, from your home, and put you somewhere under the guise of you being a public threat. And many people don't know this. This is not going to be publicized in this way. This is what you have to do if you understand what's going on. You look for these things happening in secret. They're not going to tell you this part. That's why social engineering is vital for this agenda. They need people distracted, unfocused, um, galvanized by politics and emotionalism into propaganda so that their critical thinking mind doesn't engage with things that they will experience as a reaction. Like we talked about germ theory, and we know that has huge errors. But here's the thing: terrain theory is just a piece of a pie that we may never know. Our
Yes.
bodies have complexities that basically prove that we are more than what we know. And of course, for those of us who believe in God, that testifies that we are his creation. He is wonderfully and fearfully made us. There's a lot about how we're functioning, even on a spiritual sense, that affects this physical body. So you add in the light, and you talk a lot about the light. We've seen these purple ultraviolet lights popping up.
Yes.
They're replacing street lights, and these are fifth generation plus street lights, Wi-Fi accessible. They carry signals and do all kinds of things. Of course, this is also part of um, connecting devices, quote unquote, and maybe even other things. I'm not going to say specifically to
Mm-hmm.
devices, and we've seen these patents. We put all the information about patents. We know about Microsoft patent 060606 wants to turn your body activity data into a cryptocurrency. So maybe this is why we see crypto being conditioned into the populace to accept blockchain technology, to familiarize us with these things. But it's not just for you to make money. This is for you to connect, to turn your body and your compliance into a currency.
Yes.
They're trying to take,
A currency and energy.
yes, they're
Mhm.
trying to literally turn people into programmable currency.
Yes. Yeah, exactly, man.
Man,
And
it's
I know that sounds a bit wild, but
yes,
this is what these new networking systems that are coming with the connectivity, whether it's the geo or the biosensors. I mean, there's so many different connections when we look into the fourth industrial revolution and the internet of everything,
right,
and this new push towards merging the internet of things with the internet of behaviors, with the internet of bodies, with the internet of bio nano things, all of these different families of interconnected network systems merging with the internet of things. It's imperative that there is some type of bodily component, but also it's exploiting and harnessing the natural state of the body's electrical system, electrical networks. I mean, as we talked earlier, what happens when your heart stops?
right.
They shock it back going with literally voltage, literal voltage. You
Yep.
know what I'm
The
saying? So
defibrillator, yeah.
yeah, so we understand that God has designed us as such, and He's created this whole world, this whole system in a way that has eternal mystery. This is what's important. We're not going to ever know everything about how this works. And that's the problem with science, in my view, in scientism and this type of scientific materialism and like hard empiricism, is it wants to try to map out nature and all of its laws, and it wants to master all of the connectivity and understand exactly how it works such that it can even recreate it. And I don't believe we will ever be able to know that, especially when we think of things like terrain theory, which is clearly and it's more practical, but it also seems to describe in a more sense making way how we relate to our environments and in our condition of health and in relation to illness, much better than what we've been told about the germ theory. Now,
Yes.
and we've talked about this. I know there's a big movement, anti-germ theory, anti-terrain theory, and I've just through my studies, I've come to understand that it's germ theory labels things wrong, and terrain isn't fully complete, and germ theory seems to label things incorrectly but make claims it can't prove. Okay.
Yes.
And terrain theory is just not a complete system overall, but seems to have like the true foundation of how things at least relate.
Yeah.
Correct. So there's a middle ground between the two. They actually can be combined, I think, and we could get to a little more truth, but I don't believe we ever will, because we've been designed in a way that's not going to allow us to really know these things. And I think that has to do with the fact that it's upon ourselves to live a certain way, to eat a certain way, to behave a certain way. I mean, the scriptures teach us all of these things: to
Yes.
eat right, to act right, to be right, righteous, set apart. Don't be
Yes.
like everybody else out in the world eating all this sugar and high fructose corn syrup and doing all these drugs and drinking all this alcohol and having all of these sex parties, and you know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? P Diddy as an example, being like this. We're not
Right.
supposed to be this way. This is death, because those things are sinful. So sin is death. And this is what disease brings. This is what illness brings. How do you avoid illness, disease? You eat right, you take care of yourself. You don't conform to the world. So scripture is very clear on a lot of these things.
Yes.
And what we discover is everything science has told us, for the most part, regarding the H word, has been complete nonsense. In fact, it's been utilized to create markets and industries, massive, massive companies and organizations funneling in money, but also controlling populations,
Yeah.
medicalizing populations, people
Yeah. Now,
strung out on drugs or taking pharmaceuticals to stay alive.
and I find it interesting that from the institutionalized perspective, they're speaking. from this place of empiricism, as if they know certainly that these things happen, even though they can't consistently prove correlation, causation, or have a proportional um, perspective of these things happening. For example, with terrain theory, we know that people within a shared environment can have similar symptoms. We can look at people under radiation poisoning. If someone's exposed to radiation, they're going to have similar symptoms. This is not a sign of a pathogen. This is just a shared toxic environment that will elicit symptoms. Now, when it comes to resonance, let's talk about biological resonance. So we know in the body, a toxic cell can influence a healthy cell. We see this in what they call cancer, or from an oncology perspective. When you have a toxic cell, or let's go a malignant cell next to a healthy cell, they share information. Cells share information. Now, some people might call this exosomes or whatever, but they share information, and the sharing of information elicits changes or morphology in the surrounding cells. Now, what if this happens on a micro level, where our bodies being in proximity of another person who is trying to detox from something? Because we talk about the inconsistencies of viral, quote unquote, things and viral theory and all that, but no one really wants to talk about exosomes. And what they call these illnesses are usually the damage that's caused by some kind of insult or toxicity. Now, exosomes are what happens when a cell attempts to remove these toxins away, and it could elicit another process in a similar cell next to it. So our body is just in proximity, just like pheromones change. They say women who are going through their cycles can synchronize their cycles
Great example.
within proximity, yes, because of pheromone biochemistry, biochemical reactions, and transmission of things that can affect one another. So we don't know. You could be in the process of somebody who's trying to detox, and maybe your body, and of course we're just talking, your body being so smart will start to detox just off of a resonance of what's happening in someone else. And because who's to say that when we're trying to detox from something, that our bodies are created to respond to one another?
Can I add to that?
Yeah, sure.
Were you cooking? I'm not trying to interrupt.
No, you good, man. Go ahead.
Meal.
I'm trying to put this together myself, so help me out.
I want to add to that, because what you're saying, and this is what I believe. What you're saying is what I personally believe. Do I know if it's correct? No, but this is what I believe. When we think about the contagion, when we think about this idea, I adhere to this concept of this terrain-based resonance, and the menstruation is a really good example. There's many others, but let me say this: being within the proximity of someone detoxing and causing another to detox, I would add to that, and this is just from what I've read and what I've researched in the area of terrain research, is the reason you would detox is only if you're like, say, a higher end of toxicity in your body.
Right.
And if you're not, you won't detox, i.e., or therefore you won't become symptomatic. And an example of that, and I've experienced this myself in my own home, when someone is symptomatic, having issues, and you're around them constantly, maybe even coming in contact with fluids, and you suffer nothing.
Yeah.
Because if contagion was what they said, and again, listen, I ain't no professional or anything. I'm trying to apply some logic, some real life experience, right, and some research in terrain. But I've realized, well, if contagion was what it said it was, you should become symptomatic every single time, no matter what, if you come in contact. But there's been many times where this isn't the case, and possibly it's because myself or others might have had a lower level of toxicity because you're living healthfully,
Yes.
right? You're avoiding certain ways of being in the world. You're mitigating certain toxins and maybe plastics. Maybe you don't use any types of parabens and all of these things in these chemicals and toxins in products. You stay away from these things. You eat clean. You have some decent level of activity. You drink water, just the basics. Maybe you have a less chance of coming down or becoming symptomatic in response to being around symptomatic people. And that could possibly be because we're getting to this terrain and toxicity thing,
Yes.
right? And it's not necessarily contagion, like something's jumping off of someone else and into you and causing you to have these things, right? But it's this much deeper and transcendent
Yes.
connectivity
Yep.
between beings in the earth, on the earth, and the earth itself, and all of the different realms, whether we're talking about toxic realms, all the different all of the different elements and materials in
Right.
in this space we all share. There's in my view, there's interaction, there is relating, there's communication between all of these things around us. And then we think of the signals, we think of the networking systems, and we think of all this new EMF. I would think it would obstruct, it would confuse, it would create conflict between these natural occurring relationships of all the natural things in this earth, which could contribute to illness, which could
Yes.
contribute to the symptoms. I know we're kind of speaking esoterically here, but we kind of have to, right?
And I would add, you know, even in the so-called modern medical field, they have to admit to something called the placebo or nocebo effect.
Yeah, nocebo.
And I'm gonna pull up something real quick. Let me see if I can do this. I'm trying to pull up stuff in a way.
Do you hear
I'm
that? Those are
I'm
nice.
I'm figuring this out as we go along.
Okay.
Okay, so we're just doing this off the fly, man. We're just sharing our personal research and experiences here. So just enjoy this educational and
Yeah, bear with us,
informational.
y'all.
So let me give you some background. So the nocebo effect, and this is what some people will consider fairly noteworthy publication here. So it says, by definition, a nocebo effect is the induction of a symptom perceived as negative by sham treatment and or by the suggestion of a negative expectation. Now, I'm just going to stop there. Now, think about this. We I'm not trying to say your mind can manifest, but in a sense, we don't understand the intricacies about how what our expectations are. For example, if I'm around someone sick, I kind of have an anticipation within myself that I maybe get sick just from being around someone that's sick. And it's
Mm,
almost like we don't know how God aligned our bodies to respond in these situations. There's so much about us that we really don't understand. And there's no research being developed around these phenomena. Most of the research is based around germ theory.
yes,
And it's
back to my point about it being like magic to these scientists.
yes, yes, and they won't investigate what
Mm.
we talked about with synchronicity of women because I saw Jason Casper. Now, women's thank you for the support, brother. No, we're not saying a woman's cycle is a virus,
Not
but
a
in this
the whole idea of virology and this concept, this I don't think is even a legit thing. It's a
right.
misconception. It's a
Mhm.
misnomer. It's nomenclature being placed on a process that's not even the case. That's at least it's because none of it makes sense.
Yeah,
None of it
and
makes
it's
sense.
and it's almost like they want you to think that everything that happens, like if you were in Chernobyl during that radiation, you're not being infected by a pathogen just because you're having symptoms. So there's a lot of things that multiple people can spread or have. It's almost like if you come in contact with a dead body or mold in your house, when things are breaking down, and this is very practical, when things are breaking down in nature, organisms break down things. It breaks them down and it produces a toxic byproduct, right? So just like if we don't touch a corpse because it's being broken down and it creates a toxic substance, imagine this same process happening in your body. You're being poisoned. So you have some kind of cellular degradation or decay in your body. And as your body is breaking down that dead tissue or those toxic cells, it's producing a toxin that if your system isn't up to par, if you don't have a healthy functioning body to remove those toxins, they can accumulate. They create this
Yes.
toxic microbiome. And
Yes.
and this microbiome, we could talk about biofilms, we can talk about all these things where this in sense you have a body that's full of fungus. And fungus is a sign that you have death, you have breakdown of dying things in you.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and this is why I've learned the hard way about, I had a failed root canal. And I would not suggest that anybody, look, I don't even want to say, look, let me put it this way. I went and got a root canal because I was in so much pain that I couldn't think straight. And they kind of strong armed me and said, "Well, we don't really want to pull the tooth." And I was like, I told them, "Pull it out, pull it out.
Yeah.
It's in
Get rid of
it's
that
in the
thing. Yeah.
back. Pull it
Yeah.
out." But they took advantage of how much pain. When I tell you I was in pain, I could have just hit. They could have just took a hammer and hit me in the head. And if I would have went unconscious and got relief from that way, I would have been all right with it. That's how much pain I was in.
Yeah.
So I let these people perform a root canal against my better judgment. And this is how trial and error does reveal the nature of things. And so they claim, oh, it was a good procedure, blah, blah, blah. So it was all right for a while. I did my research concerning how these things work. And your tooth in the has a lot of little tubules in it that you cannot get to. You cannot clean out all the bacteria or what we call
Or the
bacteria.
dead flesh.
The dead flesh or
Yeah.
mold or whatever you want to call
Yeah.
it, the
Yeah.
decay, the necrotic material in
The
your,
necrotic material. Yes.
you can't. There's no way you can get it all out. It's too intricate and it's too fine and it's too deep in there. So you basically have this dead tooth that's molding in your mouth on a very, because if it's there, it's cut off from the blood supply. They remove the nerve, they remove the blood supply.
I'm sorry. You want to share the screen because you got the I think you
Oh
got
yeah,
the
yeah,
wrong
yeah,
screen up.
Oh yeah. Okay, hold
There
on.
you
Let
go.
me see. Yeah,
That's it. Yeah.
yeah. So they got thanks, man. They got this thing, this dead tooth in your mouth. So basically, a year later, it started to hurt, and I kind of felt an ache every now and again. They say when you have it, you have your oral hygiene has to be perfect. You have to floss, you have to do all these things, and because a little bit of problem can accelerate a problem in there. So I started to notice little ache, and I ignored it, and it one day just got really bad. I was like, "What? This is new. This is worse than when I had it root canal. This is worse." So I went back to the same person who performed the procedure. Do you know this guy said, "It looks good to me. There's nothing I can do." He would not undo his own work out of his own ego. And he's like, "I've looked at it. There's nothing wrong." I'm saying, "Excuse me, sir. The pain I am is telling me different." So I left heated. I was furious. And I had to go to find an emergency dentist off the fly who can give me an appointment that same day. And you know how hard it is to search a large area and find someone and put your life and your health in the hands of somebody you don't know off of an emergency situation. This is why being preventative and knowing how to maintain and prevent these things are vital.
Yes.
So I went to another dentist after doing my research, and they immediately knew, okay, they did an x-ray. They saw, okay, this is a massively infected, failed root canal. It has to come out. The only reason they didn't take it out that same day is because the orthodontist wasn't there. But they took what's that Novocaine stuff and numbed it because they knew I was in pain. They said, "You must be in huge amount of pain and pressure." I said, "Yeah." So they numbed it. They gave me, I don't take pain medication, but I took it that day. Had no choice. It's either that or going to shock.
Yeah.
So the next day, took that tooth out. When he took it out, I looked at the base of it. It was nothing but necrotic material all in the base of that tooth that's been sitting there, leaking into my bloodstream. Most people don't realize that your saliva is a filtrate of your blood. So when you have something like that in your mouth, it's leaking this mold, so to speak, in your bloodstream. This dead material is going into your bloodstream, causing, medical term would be a what is it called? Cytostorm? What is it called? You know,
Cytokine storm.
yeah,
Yeah.
cytokine storm. Yeah, when something's causing massive inflammation and disturbance in your body's immune system,
Yeah.
because your body's trying to, ward off the stuff and break it down and all that. And this can cause a lot of what some people call candida in the body.
Yeah. Candida.
Um, if you have itchy skin, if you notice that your tongue is white,
Hmm.
you have bad breath, and this is all gut
It's
related.
gut mold. Yeah.
Yeah,
Basically.
yeah.
Hmm.
So, all of this stuff is related, and this is why the body is really. You have to look at the big picture. You got to look at everything. Like, Dayz and I talked yesterday about the fact that when we're born, they have certain medical procedures that they want to give newborns, and it involves injecting stuff into them, right?
Hmm. Oh
And we don't.
yeah. 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 Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
don't realize how this could retard the body, a baby's ability to develop a healthy detoxification system. If you stunt that early,
Mm,
and then you inject something that could be an insult to your health,
mm.
you're starting negative. You haven't even reached normalcy. So you're trying to get to the point of normalcy, and then you have.
From birth.
Yeah, and then a lot of children weren't breastfed. And if you're not breastfed, they're giving you this huge sugar-based formula, which causes massive inflammation. It stunts brain development. Sugar has a refined sugar, I should say. Let me be specific.
Mm,
Refined sugar, or this sugar with no nutritional value, is very inflammatory to the cells. It's oxidizing your cells. It's causing lesions. Matter of fact, this is a caveat. I don't know if you want to caveat into cholesterol, but
okay. I could pull up that article.
yeah, let's go. I saw you had an article. You want to pull that up
Yeah.
first?
Yeah,
Let's
we
go.
could pull it. This is just showing y'all where we at with this stuff.
Yeah. Let
Okay.
me
We
let me
talking
pull.
about health, you had mentioned cancer earlier, and this move towards, curing cancer with AI and
Oh my
different types of
goodness.
novel technologies. This is just an example of where this stuff goes. Okay. A cutting edge cancer treatment may cause cancer. Okay. The FDA is investigating, and it's always shoot first, ask questions later. That's the way this medical mafia moves. This is just, yes, exactly. And one, no actual empirical evidence at all. Empirical. This is empirical evidence, right? There's theories, and then there's misnomers. They're naming things and processes and defining those things and processes dishonestly. It's intellectual dishonesty. And actually, I understand why. As we said earlier, this is about creating markets and massive industries, but more importantly, it's about controlling populations from
Yes.
the inside, right? From the inside. I know we talk a lot about the networking systems and biosensors and the GO and all of these different 6G things that are coming, but they're already controlling us from the inside. They don't need to
Yep.
put no biosensors in nobody, because they're already controlling us from the cellular and the molecular and the hormonal level.
Hmm.
And this has been going on since the 70s. And some could argue even prior to that, right? But this is just an example. Let me pull you up here. I'm going to send you this one here.
Okay.
Pull that one down. Let me close it out.
All right.
You mentioned cholesterol. Now, one thing, and again, I've done some extensive lifelong research into just nutrition, generally speaking, just eating, right? And I've discovered a lot of lies over the years, a whole lot of lies we've been given.
Yeah.
And honestly, man, and I grew up in a health focused, health centric family. Okay. Like both my parents were athletes. Now it ain't to say we ate great, but they knew what is it? You don't always do better when you know better, right?
Right.
You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
But anyhow, they knew a lot, and they passed a lot of stuff down to me, and even some things back then in the 80s that they thought they knew were incorrect. Things like high fiber diets are healthy. Fat is bad for you. You know, you need to eat a lot of wheat and grain, high wheat, grain, fiber, low fat. Butter is bad. Dairy is
Hmm.
evil. Now, I do understand when we think of the processing, when we think of the pasteurization, when we think of the mass production, of course, then we could talk about some of how,
Right.
like, say, certain milk could probably be horrible for you just based on how the cows are treated. But anyhow, the point is, it's like I've discovered over the years that we've been completely lied to about what health is, or should I say diet, like proper ways to eat. Now, I do understand we're all different.
Yes.
Okay, we have different genetic makeups, we have different microbiomes, we come
Yes.
from different genetic gene pools, and I understand the geographic location is very important. You know, some people even lean into the blood type stuff. I think that's a little, um, I
Yes.
understand the blood type stuff, but I don't think it's as accurate, or should we say, it could be useful, right? But I think it's too broad of a brush. Let's just put it that way, right? Because we have to think about epigenetics. You know, we have to think about where you lived your whole life. What was your diet your whole life? I think these things might affect that blood type concept. I have the book on it, so I'm aware of it. But I've just realized we've been given this rubric, of this dietary rubric from which we eat day to day, and that was given to us in the 70s, I believe, like 72, 73. uh the pyramid, right?
Yes.
Now that's total nonsense, absolute nonsense. Here it is, shared it
Okay.
right there.
All right. I'm about to pull it up now.
And I just want to give you an example of some of this. Yeah, that was the 80s, right? You know, like, so here, now let me say this. Some people have issues with cholesterol, right? Just based on years of accumulation, I guess. So I do understand that. I'm not saying you can't have a problem with cholesterol, but I think it's like a straw man, right? So this is like 11 tips to cut your cholesterol fast. Um, now it's not all bad. Some of these things make sense, right? But the whole LDL HDL differential is, I think, pseudoscience. And I've discovered this just based on statistics and data from animal-based diets, and even when you look into data, big data that's actually been released this year in 2023 on the carnivore diet. I mean, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. You discover, like, wow, everything we learned about cholesterol has been complete nonsense. You know, they tell us not to eat eggs and stuff. It's crazy.
I eat a ton of them, and trust me, my
I eat about,
cholesterol,
man,
my
at least
heart
6 a
is
day.
healthy. Yeah,
At least 6 a day.
at least, and that's and go. I'll let you go in because
But that has to do with what else are you eating? See, this is the thing. I
yeah,
think what we've discovered is, we think about the 50s, right? When the TV dinner came out. We think about post World War II, when this new way to preserve food was created through, the what are their MRIs, the military uh long lasting food products. That's
yeah.
really
Oh,
where
MREs, yeah,
MREs, yeah, that's where our food industry got its quote unquote science, or at least methodology to have canned food and all of these new preserved types of eating. That's really where it comes from. And so from the 50s into the TV dinner, until a lot of these new preserved food systems that were introduced into our culture, mixed into all of that was processed chemicals, factory runoff, petrochemicals literally in the food we're eating based on runoff. And it was bad from the very beginning. So if you think about this type of eating, right now, we did eat a lot cleaner then. People cooked more, there was more real food. But we have to remember, this is where processed fake food started, right? In the
yes,
50s and into the 60s. And as media and culture became more important, of course, commercials and then television, we get Pepsi, we get McDonald's, and we get the fast food nation, and we get the Big Sugar, we get the cereal commercials in the morning that started in the 70s. So the kids are getting hit with heavy sugar early.
yes,
Okay, so we got sugar, Big Sugar, right? We have all the breads. Breads took off. Cereals took off in the 70s. For those that aren't familiar with this, cereal, we have what is it? The big one. Because it's what is it? It's a big,
Uh,
a big family, a big one of these big aristocratic families.
not Kellogg.
Kellogg's, right? Kellogg and all of these other major brand and cereal corporations. So we had bread, we had sugar, we had preserved foods, all of these things blowing up during the 60s and the 70s and into the 80s, where we get big time cereals, Pepsi, Coke, soda, all of these big body deteriorating substances became general aspects of our everyday lives, on our dinner tables, lunch tables, breakfast tables, every single day. So when this becomes culturally normal, when this type of frankenfood and pseudo food and processed synthetic food becomes seed oils too. Shout out to AM1. Absolutely, seed oils, big time, right? This was to this was in lard and what was it? Lard and tallow kind of. If you look back in the 80s, I think up until about 92 maybe,
Yeah.
McDonald's used to fry their fries in tallow, right?
Yep.
And so they started using seed oils. So we have the seed oils. We have all of these big cultural food systems developing over these decades. So it I understand why we would have to address things this way, as far as like, oh, eggs are bad, milk is bad, salt is bad. It's because we've been eating a lot of bad things for so long. It's deteriorated our overall and general health and our biological function. Is there we go, fast foods and microwave dinners, and then we include the microwaves. So we're including radiation, a new
Yes.
type of radiation that we've never been exposed to before. Okay, so we have we have a whole other element of dysfunction and conflict with the bioecosystem, which is microwaves in our homes, right? Nuking our food, which does other things to the actual product itself. Have you ever put certain things in the microwave and you see it just don't really work out right? It's
Yeah.
not heating it up the way we think it's
No,
heating it up.
man,
It's just moving water molecules.
yeah.
That's
And
it. Anything else, it blows up, right? So if it's not preserving and packaging the food, how we're even nuking the food, not to mention the synthetic aspects of the food alone. So we think of decades of this as a cultural norm. Culture is important because the culture normalizes the practice of eating this way. We all did it. I did it. All of us. There's nothing we could do about it. We can't go back. The point is, I kind of understand how we had to address things like fats and cholesterol and salt, because we were already kind of eating the wrong way for a long period of time. So there was already this level of ill health. And the problem is, we need to retract some of those things and take back the fats, take back the butter and the milk and the protein and the all of we need these things are inherently on a very natural level. I'd say they integrate perfectly with our systems as far as animal based. And I understand some people are vegetarian. I respect all forms of eating. We're all different. Some people are allergic, to certain things. I get it. But I personally believe, based on my research and my experience in my life, that generally speaking, we're designed to eat these foods, right?
yes.
We are omnivores, okay? And fat is a very, very important thing for the human system to function. So it's just fascinating to me how we're told, these things are bad when in fact they're not bad. But when you're eating bad already, they can be bad, right? They can be bad. Now, cereal, I love me a little cereal now and then. It's been quite some time. It's probably been a
Yeah.
couple of
It's one of
years
those
since.
things I kind
Yeah.
of do. I kind of treat like a cookie.
Yeah.
You know?
And I have some cookies. I just have some cookies, right?
Yeah.
But this is the thing: daily, never a good idea. I used to eat cereal as a kid daily, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
Same here.
for
I mean, it
years,
was.
for
I mean,
years,
it was kind of
daily.
conditioning. We watched every
Culture,
commercial. Yeah,
culture.
every commercial, like literally every commercial was about cereal, and then
Yes,
we all knew about the characters as young children. The
media.
programming, the programming was serious. So he has Jason Casper has a question, and thank you for your support, brother. He's a serious question. If you're a fit and active person eating a whole food diet with low fasting insulin, low triglyceride and good cholesterol ratio, but a total cholesterol of 400, is that dangerous? So, well, first I would like to say, of course, it's a lot of factors, because here's the thing: when you think about how cholesterol is stigmatized, let me explain why they think cholesterol is bad. Cholesterol, okay, when you take refined sugars and this mechanical processed salt, I'm not talking about Himalayan pink salt or sea salt. I'm talking about this salt that's just sodium and chloride that does not exist in nature. Your
Yes.
body cannot assimilate that kind of salt. That's salt that they literally made in a lab, along with and refined sugar. It basically works like shards of glass in your blood vessels, slicing up your blood vessels, right? Your body uses cholesterol, just like your cell walls are made of cholesterol, to plug these lesions so that you won't bleed out inside your cell. They kind of plugs them, and it forms a clot, so to speak. The issue is, if you have chronic high sugar blood sugar levels, or you eat a lot of refined sugars or processed salt or something like that, these lesions are ongoing, so the cholesterol is going to continue to build up to kind of to kind of plaque these lesions, to kind of plaque them up. So the issue of cholesterol is more or less cholesterol with refined sugars, and cholesterol with unhealthy, like, you know how sodas and all these things are full of this kind of bad salt. These things cut up your arteries. Cholesterol is actually used to help heal these lesions that form. But if the lesions are continue to form, like, you just don't stop, you drink sodas every day, you eat nothing but fruit juices every day, you put a lot of that fake salt on your food every day, then the plaque is going to build up, and eventually you're going to have a stroke, a blood clot, a heart attack. It oxidizes. Sugar is just corrosive to the body, in a sense. It's corrosive. And it's kind of like, the fat is good when you're not doing something that's an insult to your body. Because fat is how your body heals. Like, fat is the integrity of our brain is fatty
Yes.
acids and cholesterols and such. Cell walls are held together by cholesterol. Our steroid hormones, testosterone and estrogen and progesterone, are made by cholesterol. So it's
Speak
huge.
on it. Yes, man.
It's vital. And see, you got to say both parts, because yes, people who have had a heart attack, they're going to be told that they had a clogged artery and it was cholesterol, but they're not going to be told that the high blood sugar, they're not going to be told that the processed salt literally turned their arteries into Swiss cheese and their body was trying to heal it.
Mm.
They're not going to be told that part. And this is why you have to put it together.
Mm.
And I mean, everything has to be in balance and moderation. Typically, I'm speaking personally, I like to eat fat with fat and meat together. Like, if you notice
Yes.
in nature, meat has fat around it and it cooks into the meat. It actually gives it the vitamins, all the fat soluble vitamins, vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin K. All of these are very vital, are coming from fats. They're fat soluble vitamins. And if you cut out your fat, you're not getting these vital vitamins, vitamin D3 and vitamin K2, right? So when you think about hardened and narrow arteries, it's calcium that's calcifying your arteries. And when you don't get enough sunlight, you're not eating enough fat, because vitamin K2, which pulls the calcium out of the blood and puts it into the bones and the teeth, you know, when you don't have enough vitamin K2, that calcium sits in your blood and hardens your arteries. But when is the last time anybody told you to take vitamin K2? It's in the eggs. It's in a lot of fatty foods that they're telling you not to eat.
Fish,
Fish, yes. Some fermented
salmon.
foods, yeah. All of
Yeah.
these things, and these are not being promoted. You won't see these foods really promoted well anymore,
Be-
especially when they're trying to get you to eat bugs.
yes, because this is where we get our nutrients from, hence nutrient dense food. It's so
Yes.
important. And it speaks directly to what I was saying. That's a perfect follow-up, because what I was describing through the 60s, well, not 60s, because we were still all right in the 60s. It was building up. It started in the 50s after, late 40s, canned food,
Right.
TV dinners, but we were still eating real food at that time, right? 70s, and then after the 60s into the 70s, we started eating less real food, more processed food, more elements introduced into our diets and into our bodies, even microwaves as an example, more elements introduced. So we get to the point where we're no longer getting the proper nutrients from our
Yes.
foods altogether at all.
There is. There
So
it
when
is.
we're deficient of minerals, magnesium, there's data now. I just read an article. There's data now that suggests a lot of heart disease has to do with magnesium deficiency. I mean, magnesium heals. Well, we got to be careful talking like that. let me
Yeah.
let me
Oh,
let me let me
we're not
fall back.
promoting anything. We're
Let
just
me fall back. I'm just saying, man. Magnesium is an amazing thing, and it can make some serious changes in certain people's lives that need it, because minerals are very important. It's not just about sodium, and when we say sodium, we're talking about real salt,
yes.
sea salt, right? Not table salt, not what is it, Morton's or whatever.
Yeah, we use like Redmond's
Re-
Himalayan pink salt or
I,
something
I
like
and I hate to say this, man, but we talking here. I'm even gonna have to be switching from Redmond's pretty soon, because I've just done some recent
that.
studies,
Uh-oh.
and there might be some high levels of lead
Uh-oh.
due to their processing. So I'm just I'm all about the truth, right? You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
right.
So look into it. Okay, I already have a couple brands that I'm going to be switching to, and I'll be sharing those because they are do testing, and they're allegedly not, they don't have this issue. But again, I'm doing my research, I'm digging in.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I wouldn't be too worried about it, right? It's because we can't escape these plastics and heavy metals. It's in everything. But if we can mitigate, let's mitigate. Especially if I find out something has a higher level in a certain
Yeah, we
thing.
have to
So
share these things, you know?
yeah, yeah. But sea salt is important. Anyhow, it's not just sodium, sea salt. It's also magnesium, copper, potassium. Most of every person walking today is deficient in potassium, because you have to eat real foods to get these minerals.
Yes.
And supplementing them isn't always good. It's dangerous to supplement potassium. You can mess around and hurt yourself just trying to supplement potassium. It's dangerous. It's very powerful. I mean, it could screw you up. The whole potassium pump and all of that. You got
Yeah.
to be careful with that. But you got to get it from the real food. And if we're not eating real food, we're going to be deficient for a lot of things. And then this is when we're more susceptible to toxicity, right? And then this is when symptoms start to appear,
Yes. Yep.
right?
That's it.
This is how I see it. It makes a whole lot of sense.
And let me tell
So
you, I
simple as
also
that. Real
I'm
quick, before you be, I don't want to cut you off, but real quick, I'm pretty much done with this article. I just wanted to show you how this whole fill up on fiber thing. Fiber is absolute nonsense. Yeah, we need a little fiber. It's good to get the bowels moving and all of that. But really, too much fiber is horrible for the gut. Horrible,
yeah.
horrible for the gut. And this whole concept of low fat, no. Now, if you're eating a bunch of carbs, sure, you don't want to eat fat too. If you're eating a ton of carbs, the key is get away from the carbs. And when I say carbs, I don't mean good carbs like vegetables. I mean empty carbs,
Yes.
empty carbs,
Chips.
right? Chips and crackers and cookies, all of this stuff. Get
Yeah.
rid of all of that, right? It probably will be wise to go very, very low carb for a period, just to clean yourself up a bit, especially if you have any. I'm not saying it's no good, Cynthia, and I want to be careful with that because I have it at home. I used it this morning. Okay, I haven't thrown it out. It's my favorite salt, but I have read that people are in the health communities online are talking about it's high lead. Okay, based on the factory. I'm still looking into it. I have it at home. I'm probably gonna use it tonight when I eat. Right. I'm just saying. I want to share these things with you guys. Things I experience, I
Now
learn,
we appreciate it.
I implement into my own life. I'm gonna share it with you guys. Okay.
Yeah,
Just
we
like I do
definitely
with all my other research.
And we definitely appreciate it. And think about bread. All right, if you go back into how they used to make bread, the bread was baked daily. We all know the Lord's prayer: "Give us out this day our daily bread." Bread was baked daily. Now we have bread with a shelf life of 2 weeks. What does that mean? That means they have to strip all the vital nutrients out of the bread and put preservatives in the bread. So if you want to eat bread, bake your own bread. It's not that difficult. But see, because this is the issue, there are many cultures that live off of bread because it's maybe the only thing that they can really eat in excess. It's just that they actually make bread from real grains that's baked daily, not in a supermarket that sits on the shelf for 2 weeks. Anything that can sit in the shelf for a long time or it's boxed. See, it's really simple. If you avoid most of the things that are boxed, powdered, and I'm not talking about all the things because there's some supplements that are food grade that are good, but when it's talking about these carb kind of things that are powdered and processed, you know, if you're really having some kind of health issue, it's very expedient that you stop all processed foods for
That
an
should be the
extent.
first thing to go.
Yeah, I
First
mean,
thing, get rid of
I'm
it.
just stop processed foods because that's going to cause a lot of issues that your body can't really absorb nutrients if you're full of toxins. So you have to also keep your colon clean. I know that's kind of raunchy, but I'm telling you from my own personal experience, that's huge. You don't want your body to start fermenting and and waste to start going through a putrefaction process in your body. A lot of people have gut issues because they have waste sitting in their body, fermenting, um, leaking into their body systems and kind of poisoning them from within. You have to clean it, and eating real foods are very vital. Somebody brought up apple cider vinegar. Apple cider vinegar is great because it acidifies the stomach. The stomach acid needs to be very acid for your 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 valve between your esophagus and your stomach to close. Low stomach acid is why a lot of people have heartburn and acid reflux. I know, counterintuitive. You think, oh, I got heartburn, got high acid. No, the valve doesn't close when the acid is low. Let me give you a practical example. When you're eating, food is entering your stomach, and so your stomach is going to acidify, and so that closes the valve off of instinct. But when your stomach acid is low, it's almost like your body's thinking you're not eating, even when you're eating. So as you're eating, because you have, and there's a lot of reasons, you could be low potassium can cause low stomach acid. You could, it's a lot of issues that can cause that, you know. So you need to acidify your stomach first, because a lot of things that break down, like if you ate something bad, you can overcome that with strong stomach acid. The reason why dogs can eat out the trash and not die is because they have very strong stomach acids. It's like most animals. I'm not calling us animals. I'm just making a parallel to why they can eat like rotten stuff and survive, and we can't because of stomach acid. But to a degree, we need to make sure our stomach acid is very high. Our blood should be more alkaline, but our stomach should be very acidic. And
So it
there's a
can break
balance.
things down. Yeah.
Yeah, and because the issue is when your body, your blood is acidic. Guess where it's going to leach minerals from to bring your blood back to an alkaline level? Your bones. Why is there so much osteoporosis? Because people have this very acidic system from eating processed foods, and your body is leaching all your minerals, magnesium, calcium,
Oh,
whatever.
calcium. Yeah, that's one I
Yeah,
forgot. Calcium. Yeah.
from your teeth and your bones. So if you're wondering why you have chronic teeth issues, could be an acidic blood. And acidic blood is could be from stress, many stress from any form. It could be from what you're eating and not getting rid of environmental toxicity. You know, detoxing, and you can detox by eating. There's a lot of things a lot of juices that you can make for detox. Bone broth. You can
Bone
do
broth is very good. Yeah.
intermittent fasting, even to some degree prolonged fasting. And of course, you know, we speak from a spiritual foundation, but you know, usually when you get your spirit together, you quell addictions, a lot of addictions and stuff about, oh, I feel like you're eating these things emotionally because you don't have a framework to deal with life, to deal with your pain, your trauma, and all these things. And so you try to eat your way through them. So
Gabriel asked, "What can clear out the gut?" That's a great question. Someone earlier had mentioned the gut is of most priority, and this is true
yeah,
because the gut is directly connected to the brain, and in a sense, the gut is like the real immune system.
yep,
And when we say immune system, that's not like this virology concept of immune system. It's like it, it's it's like the filtration system of your entire body, right?
yes,
And it's mind, it's blood. I mean, it's heart, it's everything. So, um, one like and we have to be careful with fasting and women and men are
yeah,
different in terms of fasting can actually be very harmful to women because they actually they actually have a different hormonal response to the lack of food. I've had people I've known in the world that have gone on women that have gone on long fasts and really went on some hardcore health trips and ended up losing their periods, you know what I mean, and having all kind of like psychological issues because they've been fasting too much. So we want to be careful with that. But fasting is definitely one way. I would say intermittent fasting for sure. Intermittent fasting, getting good sleep. This is something a lot of people don't
yep.
recognize. Sleep is so important. Sleep is almost more important than diet. Not more important, but it's right up there, man. You know, you got to get good sleep, at least 6.5 to 7 hours. I'd say at least 7. Some people could operate differently, especially if you're younger. If you're over 35, you got to be getting 7 to 8
You
hours
got,
minimum.
yeah. I mean,
Okay.
it's like one of those
And I'm
things.
talking good sleep, not waking up all the time in the middle of the night, but sleeping all the way through the night. And if you have a problem with that, you might want to stay away from caffeine. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Oh man, caffeine is huge. A lot of people don't realize that not only does caffeine burn out your adrenal glands and your parasympathetic nervous system and your nerves, because see, caffeine is speeding up body processes which require more nutrients, more stress on the body, and it makes your heart beat faster. And if your heart is beating faster and you're not doing exerting activity, you're burning through all your nutrients and you're exerting stress on the body doing nothing. You're not even doing anything like breaking down muscle for to rebuild it or anything. You're just wasting energy and strength and nutrients to sit in a chair. um, Caffeine in small amounts like
You
green
hurt
tea.
my feelings, man.
Well, here's the thing.
I,
Caffeine is
I don't drink as much as I used to, but I be
we
drinking me
we
some
all had it.
coffee. I'll be
Look,
drinking me
man.
some coffee. I'm telling you.
Look, I'm preaching to myself, man. I love coffee. And let me tell you, it's almost to the point where I had to purposely stop drinking it. And even though I wanted to kind of like let my body rest and get
Yeah.
back to my baseline.
Yes.
Because sometimes what I've done personally is I gauge my body's health by how I feel with no stimulants. If I have energy
Yes.
and I
Good
didn't
one.
have any stimulants, I know my body is good. So because sometimes we mask our true state and conditioning with caffeine. We could feel more energetic, and then when it wears off, you're like, oh, I feel maybe that's my body telling me I need to detox. Maybe that's my body fatigue is
That's
a
when
very
you know.
yeah,
That's when you know.
fatigue, chronic fatigue is a very vast symptom of a lot of issues. So I like to know when I'm just fatigued because don't listen to the hype. Just because you get older, many of us in our 40s, some in their 50s and 60s here, just because you get older doesn't mean you have to have low energy. It's just that you can be more aware. Yes, you're not going to be like you were in your teens and 20s for sure. But under healthy circumstances, like Dave said, if you're getting rest, you're eating right, and you're just treating your body overall, you can have pretty substantial energy levels, and you without being dependent on stimulants. Because in small degree, it's good. Sometimes in a workout, caffeine can get you a little bit more out your workout. But I just want to make sure that I'm good baseline, or if I need to be up. Some people have children. Some people have things they have to do. They have work that need you need to stay awake. You need to stay focused. You're driving, and the small circumstances to give you a boost. As long as you realize, okay, I need to get just as much rest as I did to boost myself. I need to maintain a homeostasis here. I've exerted myself, so now I need to rest. I need to drink more water. There's things you could take to help your adrenals.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that my issue is adrenals. So, if I'm doing too much and I feel that fatigue or I'm not sleeping good, I lay off for a few days. I'll
Yeah,
go like 4 or 5 days without coffee. and then I'll have some, and it's I'm back to baseline. So for me, it's more about that, and um every week's a little different, but I've done enough research on caffeine to find out there's a lot of advantages to it too. It's all about moderation and how it works with your body and your system.
Yes.
And of course there is the mold issue, the mycotoxins. But buy local. Try to buy local. Don't go to Starbucks. Sorry, people.
Oh man, don't I
Don't
look,
go to
man. I know it
Starbucks.
tastes like a
Try to
milkshake.
buy local. Try to make your own coffee. I know. All right, but if we want to be clean, this is the proper way to do it. Buy local. Like try to buy coffee that's made in the city you're from, or maybe the state you're from. Try to buy local coffee. Has less mold because there's less of a transactional period, right? And it's usually more fresh, and it also contributes to the local market and economy. But at the same time, it's a little more healthy because it's lower mycotoxins. I want to talk about sleep in a second here. I'm sorry, I got some notes here. Someone had mentioned
No, go
sleep,
ahead. You got it.
and I got some really good pointers for sleep
And we're gonna have
because
a part two because I know we're trying to scram. So we're gonna do a part two because
I
we
got
got
about 30 minutes, man. I could
yeah,
do
okay.
another 30. Yeah,
Okay, cool, cool,
yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah. So I've been doing my own little. I experiment on myself, man, with a lot of different foods and supplements and stuff. So coffee has been something I've been experimenting with for some time. I used to be a daily coffee drinker. Some weeks I will drink coffee every day. Most weeks I don't. Right? It really depends. For me, it's a cognitive thing. It really helps me get a lot of work done, and I don't drink a whole lot of it. It's not like I'm having 2 cups, 3 cups. I'll have 1 cup of coffee, rarely two, but usually just one. And sometimes just one shot espresso. That's it. And typical coffee is 2 shots of espresso, right? So you really, if you're serious, you got to get this way. You have to be calculative. You have to be deliberate, and you have to understand what you're doing. You have to have plans, right? You have to know what you're putting in your body, when and why. I mean, this is just the way to go about it if you want to actually take your HEALTH back, right? So, for me, coffee isn't a problem anymore because I've learned how it works in my system. And there was a time where I was drinking way too much, and I didn't even realize it. So sometimes you got to dial things back. I like to do every 2 days. That's nice, because I only need to drink a little bit, and I get the good cognitive boost. But honestly, personally, I actually really enjoyed coffee. It tastes delicious to me. I got decaf at home. I'll drink some decaf before I go to bed because I just love the way it tastes. I love having a hot drink before bed. So decaf is lovely for those that just really like coffee, which I do. I love the taste.
Same
So
here.
it's not all about the caffeine, though the caffeine can be advantageous for different types of work, cognitive work for sure, but also working out. A cup of coffee before the gym, you're gonna be hitting them PRs, right? But another thing it does is sleep. It can mess with your sleep. Some people are sensitive to caffeine, or maybe restless sleepers, or maybe have always had issues with sleep, right? Many different things cause this. I'd say one of the biggest issues right now is just all of the EMF and the network systems going around this, messing with our sleep. If you're having sleep problems, I'd say try to turn your Wi-Fi off in your home when you sleep. Okay. Try to do that. Try to turn your Wi-Fi off at home every night before you go to sleep. That'll help. I'll give you some things here. There's some supplements you can take. Again, we're just throwing out ideas, stuff that we do and stuff that we know works for some people. But for me, I like theanine, L-theanine. I do a little stack, okay, and I cycle, right? I'll do it a few nights here, take a couple nights off. I cycle. I don't do anything every day. Try to stay away from daily anything when it comes to stimulants, supplements, unless it's like something like creatine. You can supplement creatine daily.
Right.
Of course, there's certain things you could supplement daily, but I like a stack. I like is theanine, L-theanine, and magnesium glycinate. There's biglycinate, but I like glycinate, uh, magnesium, theanine, and then glycine. Glycine is it's wonderful. It's like a salt, or it's kind of looks like sugar. It even tastes like sugar. And what I like about glycine is it's sweet. So you could have a nice little cup of herbal tea with some glycine in it before bed, and it's really soothing and it relaxes you. I know there's kava. It's similar to kava in its theanine, not mean theanine, Nine. Um, it has a kava effect for those that are familiar with kava. Um, yeah, and when you do this stack, you might not need all of this, right? But if you do tend to have issues sleeping, sometimes you want to maybe compound some of these different relaxing types of supplements. Theanine, magnesium, as well as glycine all have this very relaxing kind of like it just turns everything down, especially for those of us that have really busy days and just you're kind of worked up all day, and you just sometimes at night you're still worked up. I know sometimes at night my mind is just going. I might have just read. I have books by the bedside. I read before I sleep, and sometimes you get an idea going, and you're just like, so some of these things help. So theanine, magnesium, glycine, that's a nice little stack. I'd also say no blue light 2 hours before bed. This might be difficult. Some of us go to sleep with the phone in our face. I've done it. Okay. But no blue light 2 hours before bed. And for those that like this kind of thing, a hot bath, right? Or hot shower, heat, you know, um, it's just good. It relaxes the body, it tones things down.
Get the
Like
blood flowing.
yeah, man, a hot bath with that stack, no blue light 2 hours before. I like a little cup of raw milk. For those that can access that, milk is good. We got the tryptophan in there. You know what I'm saying? So that turns the lights down a bit in the mind, relaxes you a bit. And this is good for people who have issues with sleep. If you don't got issues with sleep, you might just magnesium will be enough for you. But these you can't go wrong with this here. Now, of course, there's other issues that could be contributing to it. Um, Say you drink coffee every day, that might be doing it. If you're drinking 3 or 4 cups of coffee a day and you do this stack before bed, it might not really do the trick. You got to get off the caffeine. That's the thing.
Yes.
So if you have sleeping issues, and sleep is probably the most important thing, you got to tone back the caffeine. And what I've done, because I was having some adrenal issues at one time, if you guys remember, I was talking about it, I think it might have been a couple years ago. I toned back. I was drinking matcha. I was doing green tea. I was trying, someone had mentioned this, it's like a mushroom. I still have some, actually. I have some here and there, but that was nice. I had to tone back, and I started drinking decaf, and I would spread it out. Like I go 3 days without it, and that worked for me. And now I'm to the point now where I could kind of drink coffee when I want, and I sleep well because my adrenals have healed, and I got a good system now. So these are just some pointers for those that might be having sleep issues, because if you do have sleep issues, it could be a major part of a lot of, say,
Yeah.
any other issues you might have going on.
And I'll add, first thing in the morning, better than the caffeine is to drink water. You've
Oh
been
yeah.
you've been fasting all night. Toxins are need to be flushed out. Usually, sometimes chronic fatigue is a lot of toxins. Within 2 hours, you should drink 2 glasses of clean water in the morning. Flush out your body. That should instantly give you energy. You can add lemon in the second one, or sometimes I put a little bit of sea salt, Himalayan salt in my water. Flush out and stay hydrated. Don't overhydrate. You get
Mm.
hyper. Yeah,
Overhydrating depletes your minerals.
yeah. Just make sure you are hydrated. Eat fruit in the morning. If you're going to eat fruit, it's best because fruit is like cleansing, as a astringent type effect. Like oranges, lemons, and berries and stuff are very good to do in the morning, and it can help like cleanse out your body, give you your food grade vitamin C. Sunlight, great, even in the wintertime. You,
If you could get some, because
yeah,
some of us
if you,
live in areas where we can't. So
yeah, if you can get some. Like sometimes even when it's cold, I'll stand in the window. Like I have a big window where the sun shines every morning, and just I'm telling you, I stand in the window until I can feel the heat, and
hmm
it calms my body. It's
hmm
almost like if we know that light has an effect. I mean, come on now, the world just banned incandescent light bulbs. So we
right.
know there's more to light than we know. Why would they ban a light bulb? It's you got to really think about why they did that. and they only want LED for connectivity, because LED is going to be a conduit for a whole bunch of other types of light things going on.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm telling you, drinking water and getting sunlight when you can, it's a reason why they try to create these cloudy, unnatural skies with their sprays and stuff. They know that having a full spectrum of sunlight unimpeded by chemicals is vital. It's hugely vital. And if you're near an ocean water, clean ocean, I know it's hard to know where it's clean, but ocean water is very nurturing with the salt and just all of that. Walking on the beach barefoot, great for you. Um, it's a lot of things that you can do. I mean, honestly, this is
So
not
many.
this is not mysticism, because God created creation. He designed us to function with creation without these barriers. It took me a while to understand, like, at first I thought they had rubber soles on our shoes because they're not durable. They wear out very fast, but it was kind of springy, right? And it is to an extent. But when you think about it, if you go back long term, many cultures don't do rubber soles. And if you think about it,
You
everything.
about to hurt my feelings again, but go ahead.
Hey man, I wear rubber soles too, but if you think about how nefarious this world is, they're always trying to deflect us away from seeing how God designed us to fit in this environment. He designed for us to pick fruit directly off the trees, not to refrigerate them. I know it's hard, because who has a fruit tree in their backyard? Now, everybody lives in the tropics,
Mm-hmm.
have access to that. But that's how we were designed, to eat fruit right off the tree, full of bioenergy and nutrients. When you, soon as you pluck the fruit off, and it starts to degrade slowly, but it starts to degrade. It starts to lose that life essence that was in it. And the seeds, they don't want you eating the seeds of some fruits. At first I thought it was crazy that people ate seeds, until I tried to do it. Even the lemon seed. And I want to talk about the Laetrile and all that stuff with vitamin B17, but I don't want to cause an issue with that. But there's a lot of reasons they don't want you to eat seeds, even though we know the Bible says the seed is good for meat of every fruit. And of course, they don't want you to have seeds, because you can grow your own fruit, and it's good to get heirloom seeds. I mean, trying to find seeded grapes where I'm at, very difficult. I know some people have access, but if you have seeded grapes, man, you should be crushing those things. They're good for your lymphatic system, full of antioxidants, um, just wonderful for your body. Seeded
Everything's
grapes,
here. It's all here. He's
yeah,
created this all for us.
yeah,
Everything is here. It's amazing. And isn't it fascinating how all these systems, these factories, these big food systems have replaced a lot of all of that. All this is the natural, the presence around us, man.
yes,
And now through the learned helplessness, we don't even have the drive and the discipline or the know-how to even eat right and consider how we live day to day. Right? Let's get back to that gut question. We didn't really flesh that
okay,
out. Gabriel had asked about. And I started just with fasting. I think that's the first step
okay,
for cleaning the gut is fasting. Absolutely. Fasting is the first step. Water fasting. Some do the dry. Dry is really good if you got skin issues, right? Or
yes,
if you have parasites or something like that. But that's extreme. You don't have to do the dry. But a good 24-hour fast is a
hmm,
great way to really kick that gut cleansing and drive. And then I would add to that elimination diet, right?
yes,
And for me, I go straight carnivore. When I want to clean my diet, I go full carnivore. All I'll eat is eggs and ground beef and maybe some steak, maybe some salmon, maybe some. Actually, that's about it. I keep it real simple, and I'll do that, and that cleans the gut. For people that don't really like meat that much, you could do the GAPS diet, GAPS GAPS diet. That's a good one for gut cleansing as well. Go ahead, man.
yeah. Some people, there's a tea that has sienna leaf in it. It's good to help the gut eliminate waste.
Mm.
Staying hydrated is vital. If like, you have to be hydrated enough. And electrolytes, eating stuff like watermelon, seeded watermelon, and fruits, it helps your body retain enough water because when you're drinking water and you're low on electrolytes, your body's not going to really bring the water to the cell. You can you can drink a lot of water, but you need it to actually go through the cell. And electrolytes help that water get to the cell. It helps hydrate your muscles and all of that, which is vital because sometimes if you drink too much water, you dehydrate yourself. You'll force your body to urinate so often, and you'll strip your body of minerals and phytonutrients and stuff like that. And sugar does the same. Refined sugar does the same thing. It makes you urinate. So sugar actually makes your body because the more sugar, refined sugar you eat, the more water you need to flush it because your blood sugars will remain high. And water, your kidney, it wears your kidneys down. You get a fatty liver. You get insulin resistance. It's a huge cycle to all this stuff. And this is why you cutting out the processed food, eating foods. And here's the issue with meat, since meat is brought up. It's very important that you understand that not all meat is created equal. You need to
Great
know
point. Great point.
how the animals are raised, what they're fed, the conditions do they roam, are they pasture raised? Cows and chickens and such have certain ways that they should be treated. And of course, we know that commercial and corporate farming is not doing this. So you got to go to local family owned farms and get real meat, how it's slaughtered, how everything matters. See, people they look at meat and say, "Oh, meat is bad," but they don't ever think that is it meat done the right way? That's vital because if you're doing it the wrong, vegetables the wrong way, GMO vegetables are bad. You can eat all the vegetables in the world. If they're GMO, what are they doing for you? They probably come from depleted soils. They're not doing anything but actually causing irritant in your gut because your body's not even breaking it down. And to eat a lot of vegetables, you have to have very strong stomach acid. A lot of people have gas when they eat vegetables because their stomach acid cannot process that cellulose, right?
Yeah.
And go ahead, you could jump in.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's the hard part, with the meat situation because it's not always easy to get clean meat.
Yeah,
Like some people just got Safeway and that's it. But they have organic meat in Safeway, okay, and they do have what is it, non-hormonal or no hormones added, etc. I think those are the safest route. Because to go full grass fed, sometimes it's too expensive. And personally, I buy everything in bulk. I literally go to ranches and order directly from the rancher. So I think that's the best way to do it. Everyone can do that. It just takes time, it takes planning, and you got to save, you got to create a budget for it, right? A lot of people are just used to grabbing food whenever they want. This is what I want to explain here. When you want to start living right in this regard, where regarding diet, etc., it takes work. There's no easy way. Okay. There's no quick convenience, none of that.
right,
It's a lot of work. Every day I work just to eat right. Now it becomes systematic, it becomes habitual, it becomes patterned and routine to the degree that it doesn't feel like work. It just becomes a part of who I am. It becomes a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle to plan what I'm going to eat for the week and prepare it, and to buy specific products only, and to never buy other products at all. It just becomes a way of life. So I do understand some of these things seem like, well, how did someone do something like this? You got to be serious about it. But there's a thing, you can take baby steps. You don't just got to do it all at once. It took me years to get to this position. Literally
yes,
years. I'm not sitting here like I did this overnight and no, it took a while, struggling with a life of eating whatever the heck I wanted to eat. And so I want to put that out there. It takes a little work, right? It takes some planning, and it can be affordable. By the way, I want to respond to what me memes had mentioned earlier. I did see that. I will respond to that. So that's the first thing: deliberation, discipline, and preparation. This is key. You got to be ready to take on a new responsibility in life. Your health is it's a responsibility. What you put in your body, it's a responsibility. You're accountable.
Yep.
Now we've been brought up in a culture in a time where that's unheard of. What do you mean? I go to the store, I go to the fast food, I go to the restaurant, I order my clickety clickety, send it to my house. This is the life we have now. It's convenience, it's simplicity, it's everything you can imagine, everything you can want. That's not proper, I would argue, and it hasn't panned out well. Clearly, we can see statistically.
Right.
Anyhow, yeah, I would say, um, if you, I would say think about this, like especially when we want to talk about meat. Some people don't eat a lot of meat, right? But you do want to get your protein. Fish is a good protein source. You don't have to eat beef. I like red meat. I eat a lot of red meat,
Wild caught.
right?
Always wild caught.
Wild caught. Okay, try to get wild caught. Um, uh, Fish is good. I don't really eat chicken at all anymore, and I love chicken. Don't get it twisted, but it is one of the animals that is most jabbed up. You know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
small.
Questionably.
It's a small animal too. So you got to think about
Concentrations.
the
Yeah.
concentration, right? But you can get some very clean. You can you? I'm hearing a lot of feedback on your end, bro. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Yeah. Um. So try to get some clean chicken if you want chicken. Turkey, of course. I'm not really a big fan of turkey. Once a year is great, but that's about it for me. But turkey's also a good source. You got to get your protein in eggs. Good, clean, organic eggs are a little pricey, but again, most people aren't eating 6 or 7 or 8 eggs a day, right? You probably want one or two a day. You'll be fine. And you don't need a whole lot, especially if you're not bodybuilding or working out or lifting weights or anything. There's no real need for a high amount of protein, especially if you're a woman who just, maybe has a meager, um, say, workout regimen, and you go to work day to day, and you just would like to get a healthy amount of protein. You don't need a whole lot of protein, really. I mean, a couple eggs and maybe a little meat in one of your meals would probably be enough. It all, of course, it depends on your body weight, etc., and your overall size, but relatively speaking, it's pretty easy to get enough protein, right? But it is important to make sure that it is as clean as possible if you're going to be eating a lot of meat. Like, say you're going to do a carnivore diet to do an elimination diet to clean your gut. You're going to be eating nothing but meat. So in that case, you really want to make sure it's as clean as possible. Okay. You don't want to just go and get the cheap stuff that comes from Brazil or from, some other place. Now, I'm not saying Brazil has bad meat, but I'm not sure you guys are aware, but a lot of the food in the major grocery stores is not from America. It's not American beef. They're importing
yep.
because it's cheaper. And the problem with that is we don't know what the heck's going on those farms.
Right.
We don't know what they're putting in them animals, right? So, it, like I said, deliberation, understanding. You have to be serious about this stuff, man. And some of us had to experience health issues to get serious, right? And you don't want
Amen.
you don't want to be in that position where you then have to start getting serious, right? And some people are already in that situation right now, struggling with something, dealing with something, and one way to mitigate all things is to address diet, right? So those are good sources of protein. I believe protein is only adequately uh, acquired through animal-based products. I do not believe in non-animal based protein products like pea and all of that. I don't. It's just not a thing. Okay. It can work. It's a good supplement. Say if you don't like meat, sure, it works, right? But I mean, it's not those two sources of protein are not equal. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah,
And
I would say eggs is top for me.
top eggs is top, man. Number one, right? Ground beef, number two. I love the two. I eat ground beef and eggs probably every single day, actually. But yeah, so that I'd say, just following off of what you were saying about the meat, it's very important. What about fries? Says Max Ace. Great question. I love me some fries, but guess what? It depends where you get them fries and who's cooking them for you. And where are you cooking them in?
Cook your own.
Cook your own. Cook them in tallow. Okay. They're delicious. I just made me some fries the other day. I'm eating a little carbs right now, little potatoes, little rice, white rice only, uh, but yeah, cook them in some tallow, fry them up, man, they're delicious. A little salt and pepper. Nothing wrong with some potatoes as long as you're not eating them every day, eating 3 or 4 of them a day. It's okay to have a little carbs. It's healthy to have starch. It's actually healthy for you. You want to balance the diet unless you're some type of athlete or you're trying to accomplish something specific. If you're trying to slim down or if you're trying to clean your gut, you want to avoid certain starches for some time, right? It all depends on what your goal is, right? Things are very simple. That's the good thing about this, and Hulk's been doing the same. For me, it's been about 10 years since I've been on this kind of like transformation with my health. And it's not that complicated. It sounds like it when you haven't been living it, but once you discover, it's like, wow, this is actually pretty simple as far as like what you're interacting with, what you're encountering, what type of foods and substances you're encountering, compared to just eating whatever you want, going to restaurants every day, fast food every day. You have no idea what you're putting in your system. You couldn't even count all the substances and chemicals you're putting in your system. I know exactly what's going in my body, and I can count the ingredients on my hands, right? That's where you want to be. And it's actually pretty easy. It's not very difficult. It's just hard to really get there. That's the hard part, right? Now,
Definitely.
now Mimi had said something earlier. She had mentioned that she has deficiencies nutritionally, and she's not really able to eat a lot of food. So she's concerned about how to get proper nutrients. Now, actually, the good thing is you don't need a lot of food to get good nutrients. Your food just needs to be nutrient dense, right? And things like, and I think you might have said you can't eat a lot of meat. You don't have to eat a lot of meat either. Eggs are a great source of protein and can even, I'd say, especially given it depends on, your percentage of muscle you have on your body and your overall size. But eggs alone are a great source of protein, and you don't actually even
Yeah.
have to eat meat.
Easy to digest as well. They're probably one of
Very
the
easy.
easiest meats, along with bone broth too. Yeah.
Check it out. Scrambled eggs, butter, sea salt with a dollop of Greek yogurt. That is a nutrient dense meal, packed packed with minerals and protein. You have that once a day, depending on your height and weight, that would probably be fine, especially for a woman, right? As far as just protein, your protein intake. And I'd say try to do 3 eggs. 4 would be ideal, but again, it all depends. What do you think about that? You have any pointers on that? This idea of, if you could give us a little more on that, memes. Um, this idea, she's concerned about getting enough
Nutrients.
nutrients, and she's not really, she can't eat a lot.
Yeah.
Mhm.
First, make sure your gut is working right, because um, you want to make sure that you reduce the toxic load on your body, because sometimes that'll help you assimilate what little you can eat better. Make sure your stomach acid is good. Apple cider vinegar. If you think you have low stomach acid, because if you can only eat a little bit of food, you need to make sure that the little you're eating is being digested well and assimilated. So bone broth bypasses a lot of the digestive stress. So you can literally consume bone broth. Best to make your own, but I do kettle and fire in a rush. Um, you that part as easy as you can do on your stomach. You'll get collagen, you'll get protein, minerals, such like that. Scrambled eggs. If you Yeah, we kind of need a little bit more detail when you say you can't eat. Like, what is making you not able? Did you have a stomach
She
procedure?
said, yeah, something like that.
Like
Yeah.
like the, what they call it, the sleeve, gastric sleeve, or something like that? Or because it kind of needs specifics.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're one of those people, have a few berries. You can do blueberry smoothies or something like that. That's good. Avocado maybe. Um, in
Oh yeah.
moderation. In
Yeah,
moderation,
avocado,
avocado is high fat, so
high fat.
fats usually carry more nutrients. So fats, you need to definitely increase your healthy fats. And I say healthy fats, 'cause I know people like fat, healthy fats. Um,
And there's nothing wrong with having an increase in healthy fats if you don't eat a lot of carbs, empty carbs, right? People eating chips and breads and pastries all day have no business eating any fat at all because they've eaten so many calories just based on those carbs alone that any additional fat is probably going to be detrimental, right? So you want to cut out a lot of that extra stuff and actually enjoy real natural fats. Real quick, shout out to Eric. He asked, "What frying pan? Hold on, let me try to find what frying pan to use to cook the eggs. What frying pan for eggs and what spices or herbs? Well, spices and herbs is subjective and personal, right? It depends on your taste. I would say pan. I like a good cast iron, but I do understand there is the iron aspect of it, and we don't want too much iron. So I would say steel, stainless steel all the way. You can never go wrong with a good stainless steel. I love my cast iron. I use it pretty much every single day. But for eggs, you could go either way, stainless steel or cast iron. I wouldn't use anything else. I
yeah,
would
I
ne-
agree.
I don't have anything else in my home
Yeah,
other
don't.
than stainless steel and cast
Yes,
iron.
definitely. They're pricey for a reason. They're trying to make people go for these cheap Teflon alternatives, but always do, like you said, stainless steel, cast iron. You don't want nothing else. Get a set. They last a long time. If you get the better quality, even if you have to spin it on the front, it'll last longer. Cheap pans will get holes in them. You're getting all these
That's what is that? What
PFAS,
is that called?
so some
The non-stick stuff. No,
yeah,
man,
no,
stay
no,
away from that
nothing,
stuff.
nothing nonstick. That's full of forever chemicals, PFAS, whatever you call them,
Pufas,
PFUA,
yeah, yeah,
PFAS,
yeah,
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 full
something
of
like that.
terrible stuff that your body has a very difficult time getting rid of. And you don't, and every time you eat, you're gonna do that. Especially heating it up makes it worse. You can't even boil water in those pans. Um,
And glass products too are good, right? Like
yeah, yeah,
Pyrex,
yeah.
glass is
Pyrex.
fine.
Yeah, I live on Pyrex.
Yeah,
I
me too, man. I
just
got
get
a
a whole
whole
bunch of
set. Yeah.
yeah, get a whole bunch of Pyrex, and that's great. You can put them in the oven. You can do all kinds of
Teflon, I don't know, guys. I don't do the
nah,
Teflon.
no Teflon, no
Mm-mm.
Teflon. Get it,
Mm.
no non-stick or Teflon. Stainless steel, um,
Keep it
cast
simple.
iron, and Pyrex glass.
There's
And
a lot. Yeah, green pan. There's all types. I know, but uh, stainless steel, cast iron, nothing else. That's what that's that's how I rock.
and when you say me means when you say you have digestive issues, is that like a Crohn's? I'm using the terms that they use, not that we give these credibility, but like a Crohn's, IBS, leaky gut, symptomatic kind of thing like that, or are you talking about some a procedure? Because if it's something that you possibly can try to seek naturopathic healing from, try to heal your gut. It took me a while to. I was born on my birth certificate. It literally says I had gastrointestinal issues. My whole life, it was hell. It was hell as a child. I was always in the hospital with them trying to have me swallow some viscous liquid so they can watch it on the screen and go through my see what the blockages and stuff were. I know all about it, and this is before they came up with Crohn's and all these fancy names. So and I healed my gut. The first thing I did was clean out my gut. I had to do that. Clean it out, making sure you're not constipated, you're not having any issues like that. And then I had to make sure I acidified my stomach, but gently, because you need to make sure your stomach has, because you don't want to have too much acid in a low mucus membrane. You don't want to have your stomach needs to have a healthy mucus membrane for the acid not to eat away at your stomach and you get ulcers. I actually had an ulcer, very bad experience. Um, it makes you feel like you're dying,
Yeah,
and
it's
and you
painful,
don't,
very painful.
yeah, you don't want that. So definitely try to heal your gut, and you have to do your own research. You have to tailor, you have to streamline it to your own personal issues. Everybody's different. You know, as much as we share symptoms, how we got there, it's going to always have variations. So you have to really learn your body. There's going to be a level of trial and error, see what works. If it's not working, One thing I do with supplements, if most of the supplements I take, I can see the effect that I want. And if I'm not seeing the effect that I want, I stop because I don't want to burden my liver processing too many things that are not doing something I can test. Because I stick to whole foods as much as possible, like whole foods. And so make sure you get most of your stuff food grade, whole foods, supplements, and then you go to the other stuff because your liver, your kidneys are going to be taxed out if you're trying to live off supplements. Um,
Absolutely. You don't want to have to take supplements.
yeah, exactly.
Some of us have to
Yeah.
because we've been just damaged over years, so we need it. But you want to try to get as many nutrients from your food as possible.
Um, so we got that. Make sure you're not overtraining. If you're
Lodge
working out,
cast iron. There we go. Sorry. Go ahead.
no, you're good. Just make sure you're not overtraining. I made that error. I started having like overtraining. It basically makes your body cannibalize itself, and it just
Mhm.
puts your body under stress. Working out, if you're not eating enough, if you're trying to overexert, if you're really working out hard, breaking down a lot of muscle, you must eat enough fats and proteins. You just have to. Otherwise, that stress is going to hurt your body. You have to recover depending on the intensity of your workout, um, the duration of your workout, your recovery, your rest, and your sleep. Listen to your body. Know when you shouldn't do anything, and have a passive recovery where you just walk. And because walking is good. I don't do enough walking now like I used to, but walking is vital. It your heart. If your heart's not healthy, it doesn't matter how big your muscles are. Many people die with a lot of muscles and a weak heart. So passive workout, passive recovery, very important to keep your heart healthy, along with no seed oils, nothing that's going to cause refined sugars, cause you to have blood clots and strokes and all that stuff. Cayenne pepper is good if you feel like you have any issues with circulation. Um, I've tried this thing called benfotiamine or benfotiamine or something. It's a fat soluble uh, B1 vitamin. Wouldn't take it a lot, but if you want initial help with like neuropathy or something like that, it's good. High blood sugar issues, and then but deal with the blood sugar issues. Intermittent fasting is good to deal with it. Cut out processed foods. Stop eating junk. Like if you're always snacking, it's because your body's nutritionally starving. Even if you're full and your stomach's full, you could be nutritionally starving, and it makes you want to still eat just after you ate dinner. If you have the urge to eat just after you ate a big meal, then you ate the wrong food. When you
She said, I think leaky gut had a lot
okay,
of antibiotics
protein
as a
leaking.
child.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah.
Elimination is key for that,
Yep,
man.
yep. Eliminations
Try to stay
and
away from all types of like empty carbs. Like I'd stay away from bread. I'd stay away from sugar, processed sugar of any kind. Stay away from rice. Stay away from potatoes, any starch. I try to just be vegetables, meats, eggs, water, maybe some fruit. But yeah, and maybe not too much fruit either, because that's high sugar content. That's not good for the gut, especially if you have gut issues. You want to stay away from all sugars. So yeah, that's actually an easier issue to deal with. It's just elimination. But you're concerned about getting proper amounts of protein. Um, and the thing is, you don't have to eat a whole lot. You said you can't eat a lot. You can have small meals, a couple small meals a day. Um, it's hard though, we'd really have to get detailed, right? We'd have to understand a lot of metrics,
yeah, because we don't want
bodily
to.
metrics to really be
Yeah,
able to.
it's a lot of
Yeah,
it's a lot of variables.
there's so many variables. Yeah,
Yeah, but
but
just
elimination and clean,
go 24 hours without any sugar and see how you feel. Like
great.
no sugar, because I've done this before, and literally, if you go 24 hours, a full 24 hours without any sugar, you can feel a change in your body. And if sugar is really a problem, you're going to notice it in 24 hours. Just eliminating it and drinking. Make sure you're drinking enough water, but you still get your salt because the natural salt has about 80 to 90 minerals in it, and you need all of them work together. So like the real salts are not just sodium and chloride. You want to avoid that. Your body doesn't know how to use that. It knows how to use salt in nature. Um, so yeah, just sometimes I do I hate to use the word experiments, but I test things. I go 24 hours without sugar. Aches and pains can go away. You could feel your energy can come back. And sometimes you go through a period of withdrawal. Your body, sugar is like a drug.
It
So when
is.
you cut it off, you're going to feel really bad before you feel really good. So
Mhm.
kind of push through it. Don't let the addiction, because that's how you know you need to break the addiction. If you have an urge where I have to eat this sugar, then that's how you know you need to go without.
Oh,
Because
that's a yeah. Mm.
you should have control. You should have discipline. And when you
Mhm.
have discipline, like I choose to eat cookie, I don't need to.
Mhm.
And I can go. People offer it. I'm like, I'm good today. That's how you know that you don't have that addiction type situation, because you want to be able to do it out of desire, not compulsion. Like when I eat a cookie, it's because I want to, not because I need to.
It's a treat,
Yeah,
you know.
and I kind of make sure I earn it. What I do also before I eat, preferably big meals, is I try to work out. I want to make my body have a need for these extra calories. I try not to eat a lot of food when I'm sedentary. If I'm not going to be doing anything, I'm laying around. The worst time to do is eat a lot of food. If you have an office job where you sit, um, be careful of eating huge meals and not getting up to walk or to move. That helps you digest as well, and it helps your body utilize the increased environment where that sugar is going to be assimilated. You don't want it to just float in your blood. When you move your muscles, you're giving your muscles a reason to kind of absorb some of that sugar, that glucose out of your blood, and just to use it. You don't want it to kind of sit. If when it sits in your body, it causes problems in your organs, your blood vessels, along with the seed oils. They do the same thing. They're just corrosive to the body.
They're just synthetic. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the biggest problem. It's
Yep.
synthetic, it's pure, it's highly processed. Even if it comes from a natural, organic type of substance, say corn oil as an example, it's highly processed. And when you look into some of the data, it's just it can't be good for you. Now, it's not easy for many to just cut them out altogether, but try to lessen them. And if you well, I always tell people to cook your own food. And I know this is hard, especially people who, say work far from home and commute. I lived that life for years, right? Commuting and always out, going to class, going to work, and it's just you don't have time to cook. I understand that. Um, say if I was back in a situation like that, knowing what I know now, I would just do some really great preparation and literally have everything on deck prepped, and it'd be a lot of hard work, man. It'd be a struggle. So I could understand how that could be very difficult for someone that lives that type of life, because I've lived it, and it's hard, man. So in those kind of situations, you just have to try to do the best you can, as far as like, if you're eating out, try to eat as clean as you can while you're out, right? Try to go to the cleaner places. Like, there's some restaurants that are fairly clean. I do understand Chipotle uses bran oil, which is one of the worst ones, but it's still rather relatively clean. It's not like you're eating at McDonald's, right? So, and there's different ways to go about it. I could give a whole lot of uh, different examples, but we don't have time to go into all of that. But um, where was I going with that? What goodness, I got sidetracked there. Um,
No, it's just so much to talk about.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I love this. Just
That's
it's
why we're going to do a part two,
yeah,
y'all.
we
So
gotta have
don't
a part two. Yeah.
don't don't get we're going to definitely come to a part two. When it comes to health, and you're talking about things that are practical, things that we live, you know, you have to make this a lifestyle. Like we're not just waiting till a problem happen. We actually this is what we do, and we've all come out of bad habits, and we reap the consequences of bad habits, and we had to recover and heal from these bad habits, and we're just sharing our journey. We're sharing what we've learned, and what we've experienced that other people have also learned in common experiences, and this is how we can create this kind of codex of this knowledge and information that we can share and help each other. Somebody brought up, Valar brought up honey. Yes, raw,
Oh yeah, yeah,
unfiltered,
yeah.
real honey. And I say real, real honey,
Yeah,
because
not the little stuff in the little plastic bear.
no, yeah, no heated, filtered, no heated, filtered honey. That's just turned into just a regular old sugar. After they heat it, they just like proteins when it's overcooked. Another thing, also with your meat and your eggs, I try not to overcook my eggs. I cook them enough, but I try not to overcook them. I'm not saying you have to be runny. Sometimes I'll have a soft boiled egg. Not for everybody. Sometimes I will. Make sure you get good quality eggs. But you don't want to, like, your honey is great. Honey is is the only one of those things that it never goes bad. That's to
Mhm.
tell you how the integrity of honey. It never goes bad. It's great for sore throats. I've been using it. It's great for. I take it with black seed oil. Um, Honey is just one of those go to. I even put it in my coffee. I
Yeah,
don't.
yeah.
I use honey.
It's so
In my
good. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Honey, you kind of do a lot of things with it. You can even put on your wounds. Um, I know most people don't realize this, but when I took care of my grandfather, he had a they call it end of life wound, and they told you that, and they said that they use manuka honey on the wounds, and it helps
Mm.
it
Like a bed sore.
yeah, and it helps to
Yeah.
like help the tissue to heal. Honey is one of
Mhm.
those things that's, when they said John the Baptist lived off of locusts and raw honey, he knew what he was doing. Honey is one of those
Mhm.
things. So
Milk and honey, man. Milk and honey.
I'll pass off the locusts, but I'll definitely do the raw honey.
Someone had mentioned something about olive oil. Try not to cook with olive oil like
Yeah, it's
high
good.
heat.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
not
You
high
put on
heat.
yeah, it's good. Like, if sometimes some people do shots of just regular olive oil.
Oh, I do
Yeah.
that occasionally. Yeah.
But make sure you get good quality. A lot of companies are creating rancid
Mm,
oils with mostly seed oils mixed in. It's not,
mixed. Yeah.
and you want, I think, green olives more than black olives. They always have a mixture. I think I heard green olives is better. And make sure you look at the location. And it's somebody, some you can go on YouTube, and some people have a good breakdown of how you're supposed to look at olive oil. Make sure it's in a dark container, and you don't put it in
Mm,
sunlight. You don't put it in hot areas because it's a very sensitive oil.
yeah.
Like heat and light, it messes it up. So you have to make sure the company is processing this right. They're getting good quality olives, and usually good olive sources. They give you the place where they're from. They give you the procedure of how they make them. Do the best you can. I mean, unless you know one who grows them, you can only do what you can. But just same with coconut oil. Not all coconut oil is the same. There's a lot of counterfeit companies out here that are trying to sabotage people trying to improve their HEALTH. So make sure you're getting good quality coconut oils. You can tell when it's in the cold, it should congeal right. Same with butter. They congeal in the cold, and they loosen in the heat. If that doesn't happen, it's fake with coconut oil. Olive oil is different. Um, yeah, but just those things are vital. Sometimes it's good for your gallbladder. If you're having issue producing bile, bile, that's a detergent that's produced in the liver that helps break down fat. If your liver is not producing bile, not biles like come out your butt, but bile, and it's not stored in your gallbladder, then you might not be able to break down the fat, because you can have fat, but your liver helps you break it down to assimilate it. So a lot of people, and you might know if you have a gallbladder issue, is if you can lose fat everywhere else but in midsection. That could be a liver gallbladder issue. So if you're finding out that you just can't get rid of stubborn fat around the midsection, could be a liver issue or a gallbladder issue. So because you don't want to be skinny fat. It's the worst thing.
Yeah, it's hard. It's a
Yeah.
hard one, especially when you get the visceral.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's tough, and that could start to create disease.
Hmm.
Over time because it collects and it absorbs. And it doesn't go anywhere.
Yep.
Um,
So
and
it's
cooking in oils is important, especially once say you want to start eating right. The first thing is to cook your own food, right? So what do you
yes.
cook it in? That's so important. Don't go to the canola, please. Don't go to the corn.
Canola is labeled as a pesticide by the EPA. I put it out there. It's labeled as a pesticide by the EPA. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, stay away from that. I mean, listen, we all did it for years, most of my life. You when we going out to eating anything you eat fried, any restaurant is cooked in one of these types of seed oils. So the best way to avoid that, I still go to restaurants. Okay. It's not like, I'm some Nazi about this stuff. I still go to restaurants and I might have me a little something I know has been cooked in seed oils, but I don't have seed oils in my home. So when I might, you know, have a little something that's not necessarily clean to my standards, it's not as big of a deal. It's because of the lifestyle. But tallow is great. You can buy it in bulk now. The health industry, or should I say the health communities online, have grown quite a bit. So now companies, butchers, ranchers are starting to produce their own tallow, and you could buy it online in bulk, man. It's really easy to get. But again, it takes deliberation. You got to go do it. You got to go find it. You got to order it. You got to have it sent to your home, or you can go out and buy it. Costco has uh, big vats of ghee for a really good price. Actually, I think their ghee is like maybe 15 to 20 bucks, and it's a nice bucket of it, and it lasts, depending on how much you cook, it'll last you a month or two, maybe. So it's out there. You just got to go get it, and you got to know what to get, right? And hopefully we could assist in some of that, giving you guys some pointers, some giving you options, and examples, etc. But it's not hard when you got the knowledge, right? Wow, there it is. And then when you think of corn oil, the corn they use to make the oil is just glyphosate corn, right? So yeah, ghee, Nana P. Shout out to Nana P. Ghee. I have some ghee. I love ghee. Ghee it's refined butter, so it has more flavor than tallow. Tallow's almost flavorless. Ghee has more of a buttery flavor. So if you're looking for that kind of butteriness, ghee, you'll probably like ghee a little better. I like tallow for highest heat. You fry in tallow. Tallow can get real hot, and it stays consistent, and it doesn't corrode or become rancid like, say, olive oil would. If you try to fry with olive oil, it'd become rancid.
Yep. And quickly for those, if you want something to help, if you feel like you have candida yeast in the body from, you know, taking antibiotics or some kind of chemicals or something damaged, there's a lot of things. I take grapefruit seed extract is good if you feel like you have yeast in your body. Also, you have, of course, oregano oil. Um, you have sometimes I do this very sparingly. Wormwood and black walnut oils or seed. What is it? Black walnut and wormwood is good to rid your body of parasites. Excuse me, parasites, and it helps to like heal. But I wouldn't do a lot of it. Of course, people know fulvic acid, zeolite. Of course, do these sparingly. Sometimes activated charcoal if you feel like you need to do something. I've tried nattokinase. It helps to break down dead tissue in the body. I take N-acetylcysteine. What is it? N-acetylcysteine or NAC.
Oh,
It's
NAC, yeah.
Yeah, it's great, man. I have that stuff. I keep it with me.
NAC is very important. Everyone should have some NAC,
Yeah, I'm
NAC,
telling you.
in
Yeah,
their cabinet.
definitely. So, do your research. Of course, we're just offering the information. Do your research. What else? What else? What else? Let me see.
Magnesium.
Yeah, definitely.
Magnesium is key. Get some
And you said
magnesium in your
magnesium
life.
glycinate
I
or
like glycinate. Yeah,
glycinate. Yeah,
glycinate.
glycinate. There it
Yeah.
is. Yeah, that one. Yeah, activated charcoal is good. I just make sure you drink enough water and don't do it too often because it can grab some of the good stuff while it's taking the bath off as a chelator. But if you feel like you have some kind of poison in your body and you want to immediately get it out, activated charcoal is great. They used to give it to people who had alcohol poisoning, and to take it and it'll like literally keep them from being poisoned. So it's great. I just wouldn't do it too often. Zinc for men is vital. Zinc
Vital.
is to men like iron is to women.
Yes.
So, and when you take iron, get a food source iron. Do not get ferric iron that will just accumulate in your body tissue. Get a food grade source. You can find them because if you go to expert, quote unquote, they will put you on something that will not assimilate well in your body. And actually, when I realized they put a lot of these heavy metals in cereal, they put like ferric iron in cereal to where people put a magnet to their cereal and it pulled all this iron out of it. They crushed it, blended it, and then took a magnet and pulled all this heavy metal that would destroy your body, your neuromuscular system. Heavy metals destroy your neurons, your what am I thinking about? Nervous system.
Yeah,
it
it's a neurotoxin.
it disrupts all kinds of neurotransmitters and nervous system things. And
Yes, Eric, no aluminum. If you
oh,
can help it.
please,
If
yeah, if
that's
you
what
can
you
help,
have at home,
yeah,
you want to replace that, but you want stainless steel, pure. None of
yes,
this alloy stuff. This is
yeah,
big right now. They're doing a lot of these mixtures and alloys. Keep it simple. The simpler, the better. That's what a big part of getting things together is, going simple. Stainless steel, cast iron, straight up. Keep it simple. Cast irons are heavy. You have to season them. Never wash them with a rag and soap. Don't ever put soap on a cast iron. There's actually a whole method behind taking care of properly a cast iron. So cast iron might be a little bit too much for the average person. They don't want to deal with all of that. Cast iron is good for steaks. It's good for meat. It's good for getting a type of certain texture on foods. It gets high heat, gets nice and hot, piping hot. But you don't want to deal with all of that. Just get you a nice stainless steel. You can never go wrong with stainless steel. Cook everything in stainless steel, and you'll be fine. Cast iron's a little more work. They're extremely heavy, um, and they do take a certain type of process in keeping them clean and properly seasoned, right? So just know what you're getting involved with, right? And for me, I like cast irons mainly to cook meat and like potatoes. When you want that high heat, so you can get that good texture. You can never go wrong with it. But it's not the best for something like eggs, right? Because it sticks like crazy. You get a mess with cast iron and eggs. So it's I like. Yeah, Barry. My wife can't either, right? So cast irons can be difficult, for certain people. So I do understand that. Um, Depends on the type. You could maybe use the little ones, but the general kind, man,
they're
them things
heavy,
is
yeah.
heavy, man. Them things is heavy.
And I wanted to talk about. I'm gonna talk about this very carefully about this issue of. I don't even know if I use the word shedding. Now, exosomes. Okay, I've been kind of doing some research, right? And I know they're not going to really have research, but if you notice that when we talked about organisms or cells communicating back and forth, right? So if we know that exosomes, our bodies communicate within our body, we have exosomes that help us get rid of, help detoxify toxic cells and break down dead cells and all that stuff. And they want to call that illness, and or they want to use viral theory to try to conflate those two together, which is, a distraction, a deflection from what's actually happening. Now, this whole idea of shedding, what's actually happening between two people, right? And we kind of touched on this earlier, and I'm trying to find the right terminology to talk about this because a lot of stuff is it's a lot of unknowns in this. So don't take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. So exosomes, no one really says do exosomes. Um, are we transmitting exosomes? Because in a sense, um, we're made up of many cells, and who's to say that our cells can't communicate with the cells in another body? Who's to say that can't happen? And who's to say that with this genetic manipulation that they're trying to do, and that, of course, it's a very subjective term. Who knows exactly how to define that based on what's happening in today's world? But is there some kind of messaging manipulation between how our bodies communicate with one another? And are they trying to, through some kind of, who knows, fallen angel technology or something, manipulate how our bodies were meant to function within a group or collective. You know, and I'm gonna say this loosely, and this is just some thoughts I've been having. Imagine if, you know, we know that the juicy juice has an effect on the people that like to drink the juicy juice, right? But what if also the juicy juice was meant to not only compromise those people, but to also affect those who don't have the juicy juice? And I'm saying this lightly in terms of how it affects how our bodies communicate and what's happening. Because I'm not saying with any definitive proof that something is happening between one group, group A and group B, I would say, but I don't know. It might be something going on. And
There's too
it's
many
hard.
variables to
Yeah, it's
really
too
know
many
for sure.
variables. And that's why I'm very cautious and very trying to be very wise about not saying anything with definitive proof, because I don't want nobody to say, oh, he said no. I'm not saying, I'm just offering thoughts and ideas, because there is an effort for, I mean, there is information about shedding from certain sources. There is information out there. And you know, the fact that they're admitting to some, there's been research about this, is enough for me to take it seriously, that they're actually equating this in something. And then we got the whole nano incidents and the particles and all that stuff. And man, when you talk about nano, you talking about something on that size, who knows what's really happening? You know, the fact that some of the aerosols they're spraying in the air are nanoparticles. They're that small. That means they're designed to invade cells, not just to invade your body, but they're designed to invade your cells. And that's just,
Exactly.
and it makes me think, you know, and also when we talk about frequencies in light, we know about frequencies in water have a huge effect. Water is a carrier. It's like God, water is more than what they're telling us. God created
Hmm.
water as a carrier for things we don't understand to the things we do understand. And it's a lot going on. We are what they say 75% water.
Do you
And
structure your water?
I've tried it and I've heard about it, and a lot of people testify by it. So
I do.
yeah, it's one of those.
I got a little thing. I just
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
look,
because I got some books on it, and it's real interesting stuff, man. So
I mean, I wish.
I've been messing around with it, man, because I know I'm aware about cryonics, or not
Mhm,
cryonics, but cymatics, and you know,
mhm.
all of that, and water, and we're 80% water, and so you know, I think there's something to it, man. I'm you know, I don't know, but I think there's something to it.
And think about why would they have, why would, when I'm saying they loosely, why would they have the need to adjust the natural frequency of sound? What is it, from 440 hertz or from 432 hertz
432, yeah.
to 440? Why are they adjusting such things? Why would they even, why is that even a thing? Why the spectrum of light? It's like they, like God, it's like they want to corrupt God's natural design. God says that sunlight is a full spectrum of light we need, so let's create a counterfeit, diametrically opposed corruption that will basically try to counteract sunlight. Or, you know, and if you think about, remember sound, when you freeze, how water freezes under dirt, certain sounds, it forms certain crystallization, certain
Hmm.
geometric shapes.
Geometric shapes, yeah, man.
And you know, the music. And do you, oh, let me tell you what I noticed. I'm gonna share this. This is funny. Everybody needs a good laugh at the end of the day. Do you know on ScrewTube, they banned people who prayed for the boogeyman illness. Like, they banned videos for people who prayed. Uh, um, Even though we understand the boogeyman illness is a deflection, non-existent term, whatever, but we can't really talk too much about that. But if you prayed, suppose you're one of these people who are indoctrinated into the theory of believing it's real. If you prayed about that, that was a banned video. I thought that was very interesting.
Mm. Wow.
I thought that was very interesting, and I mean, it's a lot.
Very interesting.
It's a lot, and like I said, man, there's so much I wish we could just freely talk about, man. Maybe
I
maybe one
know.
day, if
I mean,
people,
we could go on Rumble and
I
just
mean,
go
look,
ham.
if y'all serious, y'all have to really support, when we get on these other platforms, because right now it's kind of like I don't want to go over there. And if I can if everybody's over here, and people want to go over there, and we want to really just go ham, Days has a Rumble. I can get mine going. We can collaborate. We could take it big,
Yeah,
but
because at
we
least we
just,
don't gotta be tripping over our
yeah,
words and
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. Because we know over here, man, like we're here by the grace of God. God wants the gospel to be preached. He wants the world to be exposed, and He's allowed us to be humble and creative enough to navigate this so far, and we're hanging in there by the skin of our teeth. So we're greatly appreciative that you all support
Amen
and
to that.
you hang in with us because, man, we've been taking some hits. Like we can't even count between the two of us how many strikes. Probably more than
Man,
anybody else getting strikes. I
I
mean, to the
can't
point,
even I can't even believe I still have a channel. All these damn strikes.
especially with your size, man. Like
It's
usually,
crazy.
yeah, because the bigger you are, the more of a target you are. I mean,
Mm,
that's just the way it is. They know you can reach a larger audience, and you're
yeah,
speaking straight facts, and you're bringing receipts, and you're breaking this stuff down very systematically and pragmatically that the layman can understand complex ideas, which is huge.
yeah.
And
I appreciate that.
that's needed, man, because this is, I mean, honestly, this is designed that a lot of people won't understand. A lot of people will not come to this depth of knowledge because it's a paradigm shift.
Yes.
And that's the hard part about it. How many people are ready to unravel everything they've been told, everything they know, especially about your health. Like, God gave us a mind that we can know how our bodies function. He wanted us to know, just like He gave us a mind to say, hey, if I'm not feeling good, maybe did I drink enough water? That should be the pragmatic approach. Did I drink water? What am I eating? What did I eat? Instinctively, when you get sick in your stomach, you automatically say, what did I eat? It's instinct. It's intuitive how we designed to function. We're not supposed to go to some stranger and say, hey, fix me. Something
Mm,
happened. Figure it out. Like, figure it out. How are they going to figure it out? And what is the standard and basis that they're interpreting this stuff from?
yes.
People won't ask that. Like, we have a lot of, I'm not saying that, unfortunately, a lot of common practices. 100 years ago, people could rear children in the house. They could mend broken bones in the house. They can sew up lacerations. That knowledge was passed down from generation to generation. It was an internal thing. And then you had somebody who just had that more knowledge within the community, and you didn't need to go to hospitals. Hospitals were for military triage. They weren't designed for for people to just become hotels. Like the whole concept of a hospital is like being a hotel, a government hotel.
Yeah.
It's like it wasn't designed we weren't designed for that. Our families, we were designed to be entrusted within our family care and having sufficient knowledge to work out. Now, I'm not opposed to somebody going, if you break your leg, of course, we can go to somebody who can fix it.
Surgery.
Yeah, surgery,
Things
yeah.
like that.
But just also be open-minded enough to hear other sides before you run. Because yeah, if you need a surgery because you're bleeding out, fine. But if you think you need to remove organs before hearing the other side, I would definitely do my research.
Yeah, and the diagnostic is questionable too, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Even like cancer screening and stuff, man. Like
Man,
I've been reading up on stuff, and
what's
it's
really causing it? The
a lot
screening
of it is
or your
wrong.
diet? I mean, if put it this way, most people have nutritional deficiencies and have a lot of damage that needs to be remedied through a proper awareness of what we eat, how we detox, and how we strengthen our bodies
Yes.
before they even go to these people. If you're going to go to these people, go informed so that you can know when somebody's telling you some BS. If you're not informed, they can tell you anything. Look at what they get billed for. Go to the coding sheets and see how anybody who's done coding and billing in a hospital, now you know why they do this stuff. They get paid. It's a business. Insurance companies, doctors, big pharma are all shaking hands. They don't. Is that really caring or is that business? You
It's
know.
straight up business.
Yeah. So just be careful. You know, like even when I went to the dentist, I was nervous about these X-rays. I mean, knowledge about radioactive waves hitting my body. I'm like, man, I'm not comfortable with this. Make it quick. I wish it
Yeah.
was another way.
Yeah.
But at least I know what's going on. At least I'm not going to make this a habit. You know, they want you to continue to get zapped and and radiated over and over again, and then they're going to tell you, "Oh, you have a problem." I'm like, hold on,
And
you know?
a lot of them are misdiagnosis too, man.
Yeah, man.
They got
Third,
people on all types of stuff, and it's just it's horrible, man.
third leading cause of death is what? Medical
Iatrogenesis.
error.
Yeah.
Medical,
Iatrogenesis.
yep. Third leading cause of death, according to John Hopkins, according to NIH, according to anybody that you think matters. That's what they say.
Hmm.
I didn't need them to say that, but from their perspective, that's what they say. But I mean, trusting. Here's the thing: when you're going, you got to remember these are strangers who are motivated by vanity, by upholding their own personal lifestyle. Where do we attribute caring and kindness and love to these practices? I just want to know, especially from those who don't have a biblical worldview. Why
That's a
would you
very
attribute?
good point.
Why would you attribute that these people should care more about your well-being than their paycheck, than their material well-being?
And
Like,
now let's add this to it. That on top of that, now they're trying to transition that to AI,
exact man, that's even worse.
which
Now,
which completely negates all the stuff you're mentioning here. It's anti. It's a computer system. It
yeah,
has
moving away.
it can't feel. It can't be aware. It can't care. Right.
Moving away from any trust. See, when we say trusting in God, we're talking about His Word, and we're also talking about the faculties that He's given us,
Hmm.
which His Word will reveal. God gave us a mind. The secular paradigm can account for mind. You know, they're telling you artificial intelligence, like it is, like Speaking Easy said, it's artificial intelligence. Artificial means fake, false. It's a paradox. They're telling you something that's fake is intelligent. You know, almost to tell you to not trust in your God-given faculties to which will reason you to understand God, but it's also reason you to understand that which He's allowed us to know. There's a lot that God has allowed us to know about ourselves,
Hmm.
you know, and it's all reverse. You can reverse engineer it, you can test it. It's pragmatic, it's practical, it's all these things.
And there was a reason he was very clear about things like what we eat,
Yes,
how we live our lives.
bury the
There,
dead.
there's a purpose behind all those scriptures. We are
Yep,
supposed to be accountable in those ways as well. We do. He has given us a temple made in His image, right? And it's not any type of worship or any type of narcissism or any type of neurotic preoccupation. It's just properly taking care of the gift that we've been given, right?
exactly. And remember, and before we about to wrap this up, y'all, but you brought up the guy on YouTube he's finding God. A lot of these
Oh, Andrew Huber. I don't know if it's Huber Huber. I always mispronounce his name. Huberman, I think. Andrew
let me
Huberman.
let me see. Let me
Yeah,
pull it out real quick.
yeah, it's interesting.
Andrew Huberman. Yep.
Huberman. Yeah.
Now a lot of these people are finding out they're finding a belief in God. Now they might not have made it to Christ biblically just yet, but they're realizing that this whole materialistic atheistic approach doesn't fit reality. That's the first step. It's not fitting reality. So it's leading them to search and to seek. And now they have to acknowledge that there is a God. Now, once you acknowledge that there is a God, now we have to say, well, God revealed Himself? And the answer is yes. I mean, He's also and the conscience testifies of that. His word can be tested, lived. You know, it produces what it does, what it says, and it warns you about the consequences of rejecting it. All these things you can live and experience. These are experiential things. So it's crazy. Like, look at these so-called scientists that are secular, like Dyson. Um,
Mm-hmm.
what is he promoting? The LGBT community. You
Yes.
know, is that scientific? Where's the science on that? You know, they're not going to. It's just, this is a false religious cult. You know, and they're coming under the guise of scientism, like of institutionalized credibility. that is divorced from logic, true experimentation, true testing, and true things like that. And they're just kind of, Raybo said you
What's
don't
that?
scare me like that, man. He said it shut YouTube shut down on them. I'm like, oh, we talking too much. Um,
Yeah, we wrapping up anyway. We gonna definitely do a part two of this,
yeah,
man.
yeah, we starting to AI starting to get mad, so we better
Yeah,
wrap it up.
yeah, man. They don't want us not relying on their new emerging medical technologies.
Yeah, the grass. That's
The
Neil
grass,
deGrasse.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't keep up with their names. They're not important to me, but that's who it is. But yeah, I mean, oh, you said it's a harmless, harmless glitch. Who knows, man? Stranger things have happened. I mean, I've had system shutdowns. Days, he has a lot more, bi- much better equipment than I do that shuts down. And trust me, these
It
things are
happens.
very, they're very mysterious, almost like I mean, we know that I was reading something about the government, the NSA and CIA. They have backdoor channels to everything. Like there was an
Everything.
ex NSA. He was like, "Yeah, you think it doesn't delete just because you have a firewall. You believe you have one. To them, you don't. It's like he was just basically saying all of this is just an illusion, and and I guess it's the real reason of why technology is everybody having their own, is playing their part into surveillance, but at least we can redeem it to, present counter information, to present the truth of things, to bring people to knowledge of Christ, to bring people to knowledge of self. We're redeeming it, and because
Yeah,
it's a tool when you don't worship it, when you don't
yeah,
seek an identity through technology, it could be a useful tool. I mean, imagine how else would you reach thousands or millions of people? How would you
yeah.
do that? You know, if,
And God has designed the time as such. This
yes,
is the way to
this is the
reach.
time.
This
The
is
Bible
how it's
says,
done.
to the pure, all things are pure, but to the defiled, nothing is pure. So if you're in Christ and
Amen.
you have a regenerated mind and the Spirit of God within you, then you're not going to be overcome by any of these things. You're gonna be convicted when they go too far, and you're not going to worship them. You're not going to define yourself through them. You're not going to validate and seek an identity, but you're going to use them to, number one, promote the biblical Creator. You promote His will and His truth, and help people and expose things. I mean, how many people may have did something that they regret until they heard information on one of our, anybody's stream about something, a health choice or something like that. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
there it is. We just put the information out there. I think everybody is going to have to make their own informed decision about what they hear and process it, do their own research. Um, test what we say against, well, I would say against God biblically, but even against other sources of information, you know.
it's about thinking for yourself. It's about being deliberate in the way you live your life and being
Yes,
accountable and responsible for your time here.
definitely.
I think once we could start moving in that direction, of course, putting all faith in God through Christ and understanding that we're nothing without Him, but that don't mean we just gonna lay down.
So
All right,
exactly.
I ain't laying
Exactly.
down. Yeah,
So before we close out, I just want to say, y'all be wary out here. They're I don't know if it's spraying in the air, because this is affecting people all over. They're trying to move into 2.0 version or 3.0. I don't know which point oh we're in right now of this agenda, but they're trying to get digital ID ready. They're
mm,
trying to bring digital authentication, and none of their little treaty pandemic stuff has changed. It's just that people are more distracted. Um,
than
and
ever.
yeah, so understand that detoxing your body, of course, establish yourself in biblical faith so that you have awareness. You're not blinded by sin or just lies and deceptions, to actually see what is true and what is not. Because when you realize you'll realize the world is incapable outside of Christ of telling the truth. All they have is agendas and narratives and things like that. So you know, I'm man, I appreciate you coming on, man. I know,
Mm.
we
Appreciate you having me, man.
trying to get it done out here, man. Y'all make sure y'all support his work, man. I be learning, and trust me, I prayed. that I can find people that I can learn from. And that prayer was answered in many, definitely in Brother Days here, because people think that we have a thirst for knowledge, and the problem is you kind of hit a plateau. I mean, you get new stuff here and there, but you can find other people who just have a whole different understanding of knowledge, all moving in the same direction, but
Mm.
just things that are outside of my scope. And I would never have looked into deeper things and understood this stuff on a more on the level that he's does. He's presenting this knowledge, and very going back in history and going through time and putting it all together is very difficult work. So y'all definitely make sure y'all support Brother Days. And you know look forward to his channel. He got a music channel, health channel,
Yeah, we
um,
about to get back into the swing
Future
of
Shock
things, man.
channel.
Yeah.
I gotta make sure all my channels are sub to all his channels. It's hard because I got so
Yeah.
many,
It's
but
hard. It's hard keeping up, man. It
yeah,
really is. Especially when you have a main channel that's kind of sucks most of your concentration. And
yeah,
for my biggest obstacle is just the research, man. Like literally reading several chapters from several books a day on top of doing internet research, on top of writing and
right.
meditation, and then conceptual time where you sit down and you start to make connections, and that's all aside from life. And then you got other channels. So it's tough, man. But I put it on myself, so I can't blame nobody but myself. But we making it happen, man.
You said, when's the next show? Hey, man, you got to be patient. We try to keep them coming, but
Yeah.
within the regular schedules and families and all that stuff, we gotta find the time. But we always trying to get it going. We got to sync up, and who knows? Sometimes we might even spontaneously pop up and say, "Hey, man, let's do the show or something." Who
Yeah,
knows?
some random stuff too. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
it's really hard. It's hard to have when you have so many paths and different streams of work, not to mention life, it's very hard to have a very strict schedule. It's so difficult, man. And I've always struggled with that in general. Just, keeping things organized when you just have such going on all the time. But yeah, we're definitely going to be back soon. Sooner than later, that's for sure.
and I appreciate you all. We really just doing our best to try to have this conversation, talking about complex issues, and it's not the easiest thing to talk about. Trust me, if we were, and like maybe one day we will have to do a rumble where we can just really let loose, man, and give and
Yeah.
it's and it'll still be a fraction of what we want to say. Because a lot of this stuff we're still processing and still trying to sift through this information, because we just giving you the best estimate based on what we know, and things is going to still unravel, and there's going to be a level of things that we'll never know. It's
Yep.
just
And
we're
we're
just
okay with that.
yeah, we're okay with that. That's God is God for a reason.
Yes.
And we do what He's submitted us to do within His noble will, and the rest we submit to Him because He controls the things we don't. So, on that note, anything else you want to say before we head out?
Man, I just want to say thank you for having me. I can't wait till we have the next one. And I want to thank everyone who's been here listening and joining in with the chat, chiming in with great comments, great questions, man. This was so much fun. And we will be, as I've stated, though, of course, how things go around here. I appreciate the patience, but we will be having this popping off on my health channel as well, where I will be having
Definitely.
Hulk on my channel, and we will be doing this. And I will
So
be presenting, a lot of the stuff I talk about here and have talked about tonight on that health channel. So I appreciate the patience and the understanding. But trust me, we coming.
yeah,
We coming.
and Regmon, brother Regmon said, "Hey
Shout out to
man,"
Brother Reg, man.
he said, "Do the uncut on Rumble." Hey
Yeah,
man,
you better
hey,
believe it. It's gonna be all the way uncut. Yep.
I appreciate y'all for dropping the links as well. I just dropped Dayz Health channel, man. Let's get him. Let's get everybody over there too, because when he does it, it's gonna be popping. It's gonna be on and popping. So on that note, all right, y'all. Thanks and peace and blessings, and all praises to the Most High, as Dave says in Jesus' name. We out of here. Peace and blessings.
Peace and blessings.
All right.